like that, we back. What's going on, fellas? This is another episode, another Wednesday, another 9:30. It is Unpacked featuring the squad right here, presented by the To Be Fair Show and
the G Shit Podcast.
And look like we're gonna have another spirited conversation, another good one. We have a great one lined up. We're gonna talk about feminism. We're gonna talk about feminism from a couple angles, including its impact on the Black community. If it's necessary, was it always necessary? It's a bunch of different angles we can kind of get into. But before we do that, I'd love for the panel to introduce themselves. To my right on the screen.
What's good, everybody? It's G, host of the G Shit Podcast. You can catch that podcast wherever you enjoy your podcast at GSHPOD. Hi.
And beside him, talk to him, Trey.
You muted.
Yeah, you
muted. What's good? I'm Trey. Guest on the show. Trying to do my best to be a good advocate for Black men, FBA, or the Black community in general. Shout out to the topic and help us out in the chat, like and subscribe.
Yep. Below him, Johnny.
What up? It's your boy Johnny P. 1/3 of the To Be Fair Show. You can catch me every Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Yeah, like Trey say, tap in with us below, hit the notification button, and enjoy.
Talk to him, A Black.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is A Black. You can follow me on Instagram at Mayor of Charlotte. You can check out my travel blog and also my interview series I just released called The Free Black Man. And yeah, happy to be here talking feminism. I invited some homegirls. I hope they come in today. I feel bad. We got 5 dudes talking about feminism. So I hope the girls come in today and give us some feedback. But yeah, let's get it.
All right, for sure. So I guess I'll start the question off, or start the podcast off, and just ask how do y'all identify? Does anybody on the panel identify as a feminist? Believe in some of the tenets of feminism? We won't have to go like specifically too deep right now, but just kind of getting a feel for where the panel's at in general.
Hey, Q, how about this though? Can we all agree on what feminism really is before we get into it too? Because we might be thinking different things when we say the word feminism out there.
True enough. I guess, and this is where it gets difficult. And this is kind of where, through the conversation, I wanted to walk y'all through, because there is like the overarching idea of what feminism is, where it's the equality, or fighting for equality across all people, not even specifically women, but across all people. But then you have what they call first wave feminism. You have which is pretty much like voting, basic human rights, the women's suffrage movement, XYZ. You got second wave feminism, which is typically like the legislation during like the civil rights movement and all that, where they started passing like sex discrimination based things and kind of like pushing against the traditional gender roles, XYZ. You have third wave, which is like the whole intersectionality, the slut walks and liberation and cultural revolution. Some people say fourth, some people say they kind of put this one into the third wave, where you have like the Me Too and the new internet culture of feminism. So like it's waves. I did want to walk y'all through the different ways as we kind of got into the conversation, but in general, feminism as defined is the equality of like equality for all people, pretty much.
Yeah, I would say more specifically though, for that women and men have equality between sexes. Like, right, like if I think like my definition or thought of feminism is women getting the same access to social, economic, political, whatever opportunities that are out there that a man would, regardless of other things.
Right. And to piggyback on that, I guess the definition is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes.
Yeah, I would say by definition, I would consider myself a feminist.
Yeah, I mean, based on it, yeah, I mean, based on that last one, like what you read, I mean, I believe, I believe everybody's, created equal. I think there's differences, of course, and I think there's some places we can't compare, but overall, I believe women should have all the same access and all the rights, as a man.
Yeah, definitely. The general original definition of feminism, I would think I would be a feminist as far as advocating for women's rights. How it initially started, like you said, it's definitely waves. So I would just say it's feminism, then modern feminism. That's really kind of the two sides to me. So I don't really subscribe to a lot of the modern stuff, but I think the original feminism that they had the suffrage movement for and what they was fighting for women couldn't vote, women couldn't own houses, women couldn't have a bank account, just all type of oppression across the board. Yeah, I'm definitely for them having that opportunity, that equal footing. But then it gets deeper with race, with intersectionality, and then now this whole modern side that we'll get into.
Trey.
I think that Black feminism is a cancer in the Black community for a lot of reasons we'll get into later. I think a lot of the arguments that they have were set up by non-Black men, and Black men have never been able to take advantage of the patriarchy, especially in America. I think as Black men and Black women, we are under this together, and the only way we're going to get out of this together. So anything that separates us and intersectionality weakens our resolve as one.
So you do not believe in feminism?
As far as it pertains to the Black community, I don't think we have a problem with Black women being oppressed. I think it's almost the opposite with us, where we have been in a position where we're more attacked than Black women. And I think they have weaponized the feminist movement to separate us. And instead of attacking our common enemy, they go on attack against Black folk we can't be your shield and your target at the same time.
I think we do have to distinguish between general feminism and Black feminism. It is some differences, some nuances, like Trey speaks of that, just as Black men, we didn't have the same power of white men, but we still had a power that, we ruled or we emulated from white men towards our women in a lot of ways as well too. But it's definitely a difference just from the general tenets of feminism and then this new Black feminism that came from it.
Okay. All right. So I guess where we're at right now probably lends to one of those buzzwords that we hear, and I think that describes what you just spoke about. What is your thoughts on intersectionality?
So when you talk of general feminism, it's naturally started by white women. So the intersectionality comes in when you add in Black women, you add in gay Black women, you add in handicapped women, you add in fat. So all these different categories come in that wasn't necessarily inclusive with the original feminist movement. When they even have the march for feminism, they made Black women get in the back. I remember the Deltas were one of the first groups to be a part of the suffrage movement, and they say how the white women excluded them out of meetings. They excluded them out of kind of being a part of that because they still, even in their quest for equality with white men, didn't think that Black women were equal to them. But at the same time, Black women are still kind of trying to attach themselves to their movement. And, they benefit as well, too. But the intersectionality comes in when you kind of bring in those other categories. Like, all right, we have women, but then you got Black women, and now you got gay women, and then you got fat women. How are you going to accept them, too? Are they going to be equal all across the board? Are there going to be categories of like, well, this woman is more important because she's white and she deserves this, but Black women are still not equal? So you got a lot of that, and I think that's where a lot of people come in and say, "Oh, it's bad for the Black family," because a lot of things that white women were fighting for, a lot of the fights wasn't the same because, Black women had race to deal with too. They had being Black to deal with too, but they also wanted their freedom as well. So let's jump onto this movement. But that's where the intersectionality comes in, at least in my perspective.
Gotcha. But so you do believe in like the concept of intersectionality?
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny people are different. You got different type of women, you got different type of men. Like I said, even in our own community, we fighting for Black rights, but then you have gay Black men that come in too, and it's like, yeah, but not y'all niggas though. So it's like it's kind of always these different divisions and these movements that come into about from people just being different. So.
Gotcha. G, how you feel? Intersectionality.
Yeah, man. I tend to think that so with
Do you think there's
intersection,
value in intersectionality? Maybe that's a good kind of toss to the question.
I think the way I answer this, I got to be careful because I'm answering this based off of the makeup of where we stay. The whole American Constitution is based off of intersectionality when you really look at like laws and how it's been developed over time, because the laws were made for not white people but white men. You see what I'm saying? And then when you look at when certain rights were given to the Black people, like say, for example, right to vote, that was for Black men to vote, not for Black women to vote, for example. So I feel like the American way is intersectionality to some degree. It's just a part of the fabric of the United States. I do feel like for the modern era in the Black community, intersectionality is a detriment and it shouldn't come before being Black, is my opinion. I feel like being Black should trump gender, sex, sexuality, race, or not race, religion. Like if you're Black in America, there should be a united front around that to get Black people what they need. And I feel like intersectionality across those different things is a detriment to that movement.
Gotcha. And I guess I'll ask the question. To my understanding of intersectionality, just inside like what I've been looking up in the feminist lens, is it not the the recognition that the experience for say a Black woman is going to be naturally different than the experience of a white woman or like a Hispanic woman or
a Black man?
Insert right. And so you believe that the recognition of that her experience is going to be specific to her, like itself in its own unique experience is detrimental to the Black community?
Negative. What I feel is detrimental is the branding of these movements and how they get politicized to be prioritized over helping the race. That's what my detriment is. So like I think Black women do have a unique experience of their own that is not equal even to us on this panel. What they go through is not what we go through as Black people. They have a different experience, different ways of being discriminated against, etc. I think Black women should have the same opportunities as Black men. That's why I say I'm a feminist. Where I feel like intersectionality is a detriment is when it comes to policy, because these intersections are used to deprioritize doing things for Black people as a whole versus just trying to focus in and carve out and pull from different pockets to say, oh, we look at what we did for all these diverse people, but it dilutes what you're doing for Black people as a whole.
Okay, so intersectionality in the sense of it being used like minority, where it becomes too overly encompassing.
Especially as it relates to policy and things of that nature. Yeah.
Okay, so specifically policy and anything that might get passed. Johnny, do you find value in intersectionality?
I mean, I think everybody's unique experiences as a Black person, I think there's value in everybody's unique experience. Of course, there's some value to intersectionality, but I think what we're talking about and where it gets, um, to be detrimental is, especially we talking politically, um, say Black should come first. We should be, pro-Black first. We should also find space within that pro-Black to where that's pro-Black woman, that's pro-Black man, that's pro, all those intersectionalities can still fit within being pro-Black. When we start leaning into these intersectionalities politically, like G said, it dilutes us. It takes away our power, especially if we all have different goals now that we're separated. And there is no unity with intersectionality. And I think that's part of the issue, and that's when it becomes detrimental. I think there's value in everybody's unique experience as a Black person, but at some point it does become detrimental when we start branding it, when we start voting based on these intersectional things.
Okay. I guess let me ask. Well, I'll throw out a statement. This kind of deals within the realm of intersectionality and kind of where it blends in with Black women specifically and Black men. And this is a quote that I heard. And I want to get y'all response to it. Said one of my biggest gripes with white supremacy is how they treat their women. Pretty much that they look at them as inferior from their mother, their grandmother, their daughter, all the way down to almost a piece of property. And one of the issues with Black men is that Black men have adopted this version of quote unquote patriarchy. What is y'all thoughts to this?
You said your biggest gripe with white supremacy is how they treat their women, not like the bondage or the Jim Crow.
No, not their biggest. Us. One of
your biggest gripes is how they treat their women. Not like, of all the things they do, you said their biggest gripe is how they treat their own women.
I'm trying to clarify that again. Not their biggest. One of their biggest gripes.
One of your biggest problems with white supremacy is how they treat their women. Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm specifically. The quote that I just quoted. I kind of.
That's what it's saying. That's what it's saying. Correct.
Okay.
I think like white men are, they definitely are misogynist too and treat their women less than, but at the same time, the white woman is the most protected woman on the planet. So maybe they're doing it out of projection and not real protection, but they also don't play about their daughters if they get kidnapped or they get touched or if you whistle across the street or anything. Like, so it might be a reason for them to lash out or whatever, but at the same time, they don't play about them. And knowing that them women, a lot of those women, which is why a lot of them vote predominantly Republican and predominantly Trump, they don't mind playing that role. They don't mind, I don't want to say being less than, but they don't mind being in that position where a lot of them don't feel like they have to have a power over their man or something. It's a select group, that want quote unquote equality and different things, but there's also a large majority who want the man to be the man, to rule over them, to lead over them. They want to chill. They don't want to work. They don't want to make more money. They don't want to do all of that stuff. Like, they want to be their version of what a woman was. But I can't be like, oh, white men treat them, because they're still the most protected. A white woman called the cops. We know who coming. They all come in full force. Like, they are probably the most protected people on the planet. So I can't act like that's one of the biggest gripes of white supremacy is how white women are treated, because white women are very protected out here. they treated good, but
so you said, you make it sound that white women are like white men protect their women. It almost sounds like you're implying that we don't play about our women either. Like, if anything happened to any of the women you're close to, you're saying a white man's gonna like have more inclination to protect his women than Black men do?
I'm saying if you are part of white supremacy, you got the structure, you got the systems behind you. They benefit from that. So we cannot play about it, but that don't mean they'll care about it. Like a black woman can be in the same distress. She might not get the same response as a white woman. Like a white woman cries, she screams, everybody's going crazy. Black woman cries, scream, it's like, but what you do? You know?
Yeah, but what about? But see, I think, but it's like a black woman's own man will do that to her. You see, I think it's a bit different where it's like,
wait, you said a black woman's
because
own man will do
like
what?
this, what A Black is describing, in my opinion, of these quote unquote white men stand up for their whatever. If somebody do something, is like if somebody they don't like does something. If somebody who's outside of their tribe does something. If you, one of us on this call, do something, they want to give us the wrath. But when old private school Timmy calls the bitch a cunt, fucking whore, and whatever the case will be, it's just like regular degular. That's how we talk to our women. So I don't think that, like, I mean, it's like, and I think it's kind of interesting that you're saying white women want to be inferior to white men. I just think that's like a very like, it's like, that's a very interesting assumption to me, that these women want to play that position versus that they too are. Now, granted, it's like, this is where it's like the oppression Olympics. I don't want to suggest that they're less oppressed than black people.
Wait, what?
White women are not the shining light of white supremacy. They're not like they're not like these beacons of people who like have great opportunities, have done the most. Like they've been on the back burner for the bulk of their existence here. They haven't been at the forefront of anything in their community. Everything's basically ran by white men. In the black community, I don't think that's the same.
But compared to us, they got hella opportunity, and they compared to black people, black men and women, white women are still ahead as far as opportunity and access and things that they get privilege over.
Straight up. And that goes back to what you were saying about intersectionality, because black women don't get oppressed because they're women. They get oppressed because they're black. Same with gay black men. Like the gay white men were plantation owners. The gay black men were on the plantation. So when people put these labels on themselves, it's almost like they're trying to escape blackness. Like I'm not, because nothing's more threatening than a straight black man. So
Trey, do you think that black women get oppressed because they're black and they're women, or
no,
is it just because they're black, only isolated to the black struggle, but they don't? Or do you believe that there's a woman struggle? Maybe I'll ask that.
Not that has anything to do with black men. And if it has
that's not the question, though, bro. That's not the question. Yo, Trey, you love to take a question here and just move that motherfucker all the way over here, bro. That's not the question at all. That's not the question at all.
But we gotta look at the bigger picture, though, because if it's not the black men causing their oppression, then the issue isn't feminism; it's white supremacy.
But do you think that there's like isolated things? Do you think that women in general, whether black, white, indifferent, have its own struggle?
No, everything that black women deal with, besides racism, pales in comparison. Like black men are not the driving force of any oppression. If we fight
we're
together,
not saying that though. I don't think that's the definition of feminism.
Then what's the point of feminism if it doesn't address your primary issue? It's like putting a paint job on a car with a bad engine. It's non-consequential.
Now, see, this is where I would disagree, because a lot of black men still want black women to play these quote unquote traditional roles that are based off of this old model of patriarchy. They still expect that today.
So traditional roles is oppression?
In today's world, if you're a black man who insists that your woman should be subject to the kitchen and nothing more, I think you are an oppressive nigga. Yes.
I don't know if that's an issue with like black men are not. If black men are not causing that issue, we might have some black men who want a traditional marriage, and I think that's okay. But I don't think we have like a epidemic of black men who insist on this. I think if anything, black men are the least likely to press that compared to like Hispanic or more traditional cultures or white cultures. Black men have been like, we're kind of like, black women have the most rights out of any woman within the dynamic with black men.
So you're telling me that black women have been working as long as black men?
Black women have been working as long as black men. I mean, we've been working. Yeah, we were on the plantation together working. We had different roles. Yeah, from past to present.
And once they were freed in terms of opportunities, women could just go to the workforce the way men could.
Women could, but again, that's more.
No, because black men could get jobs that women couldn't at a point in time. Like, do you agree with that historical fact?
Yeah, that's true. They couldn't write checks. They couldn't do a lot of things. Under Western society. Yeah.
But that is not just because they're black, because black men could. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Yes, black women and white women, both under this patriarchal white supremacist structure, have a struggle. But I think as black women, their struggle is being under this white supremacist patriarchal structure. So for them to separate off and fight as black women, it doesn't do anything to the larger picture. Like, even if they do get better rights under a white supremacist structure, their efforts would have been better invested into uniting with the black men so we can get out of this.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm just saying you're acting like women haven't had unique struggles that are unique to women. You're saying it's all race-based, but there's clear examples of our history where it's not just race-based. The laws were created where black men had advantages that black women legally didn't have the same opportunities. That's like the...
I mean, I would kind of understand that more, but unfortunately, that's not what black feminism has become. What we have with black feminism is we have like our Alice Walker's, who is one of the most famous black feminists, and she wrote The Color Purple, which didn't attack the white patriarchy, it attacked white men. And then we also have our Oprah's, who is buddy up with Harvey Weinstein, but she'll attack black men. And every time you look, it's a black feminist that's targeting black men and turning a blind eye. A lot of them even have white husbands like Harriet Tubman. I mean, not Harriet Tubman, excuse me. Maya Angelou.
Go ahead, A Black.
We veered into black feminism, which we need to get into. But I think, like, you know, what Gina was saying is like, I don't think it's just a white supremacy thing, like our Western society thing. Like, this is the worldwide, like, for real.
I would agree.
As far as how women are treated, it wasn't up until like 1902. It's only 2 countries on the planet where women could vote. And even today, you know, our women, I would say American women and probably women in the UK are maybe the most free women in the world. But if you go, you know, even Africa, Muslim countries, Korea, Asian countries, like the women are still dealing with like a big contrast of how they're treated as far as opportunities and access. Like it's still going on today in 2024. Like, so, you know, our women, even though they still want more and, you know, they deserve more and they want more progression, are the most progressive women on the planet. They are the most free women on the planet, black and white here, you know, but I don't think it's just like white supremacy in Western society. Like, this is historical that men have ruled over women, you know?
Yeah. So relatively speaking, black FBA women are some of the freest women globally, right?
Yeah. I would say.
So why would they be fighting for feminism when our real struggle is, especially when the feminism takes the form of going after black men? Like, real quick, even if you go back to feminism started when black men got the right to vote, and then the white women were like, these black men get the right to vote and we don't. And then we have women like Sojourner Truth who would say things that if black women get the right to, if black men get the right to vote and we don't, it'll be worse than bondage. So as far as feminism goes, that works against our general black empowerment. That's why it was a psyop that was set up to separate us, because we need to be fighting together. Like, we need each other. We're not at odds. Like, we've been very supportive of black women. Black men have been the most supportive of any race of men.
With that,
Would you disagree?
No, with that, I would agree. I feel like that.
I don't know.
Now you talk about the evolution of feminism into modern feminism, and I feel like a lot of that has been kind of lost in translation in this whole Twitter scope, this internet scope, where you find a lot of it is rooted in hating men or wanting to be better than men. And what the feminism has done for a lot of them is given them intellectual rhetoric to have justifications and have conversations behind their feelings, which are really not about being equal, because they still want you to take care of them. They still want you to pay all the bills. They still want all the benefits of being a damsel. But at the same time, they hate that they need men. Some of them hate men due to their interactions, their relationships with their fathers, their relationship with their baby fathers, with their boyfriends. So they project a lot of that. And so now what you have in this social media era started, I would say, in the 2010s and on, is finding buzzwords, finding intellectual ways to project your disdain for men that's not really rooted anymore in being equal, but in having like smart ways to hate men. And I think that's what has become what people are saying are destroying the Black family, because women have the same issues across the board, but Black women issues are very singular to their own, so they can't grasp onto every movement because you still are dealing with race, especially in America. So it's like
like Cynthia G. My bad, like the Cynthia G type. Have you heard of her?
Cynthia G?
Yeah.
I don't know if I heard Cynthia G. Hold on, is that the chick that does the podcast?
Yeah, millions of followers.
Yeah, I know you talking.
She was advocating for the unaliving of unborn Black sons, and she asked Umar Johnson, what have Black men ever done to fight oppression? And we have dumb stuff like that that's become like the face of Black feminism. And G, if you haven't heard of Cynthia G, then like I think you may not be aware of like what this feminist movement has become. It's not like women having the right to vote and make checks. It's something different now. It's divestors and shit like that.
No, so look, I don't know who you're talking about. That's true, but I also acknowledge that, like I said at the beginning, when you start talking about intersectionality as it relates to progress of Black people, that is a detriment, not a positive. So I acknowledge that it's not a net positive as in the modern times, but I would kind of push back. It's like, if we just acknowledge that women as a whole, not even just Black, but just as a whole, have been treated as an inferior species to men until recent times. And it's like we're saying they're creating this rhetoric, but like how much rhetoric it was created that we speak so ill of them. Like we make womanizing okay, we make adultery okay, we make broken families okay, we make multiple wives okay, we make a lot of things okay on the man side of things that if you're a man, you get to treat women a certain way. And for a long time, women have had to deal with that. So
women do the same thing.
Let me let Johnny happen. You've been quiet for a second.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna say I think we're having two different conversations, because I think, like, of course, like as a man, we know like how women have been treated. If you got sisters, nieces, daughters, like we understand that there's a certain level of treatment that women deserve, that as a whole men haven't necessarily done the best job at. Like, of course, like we want to make the world a better place for the women in our lives, but I think like what Trey's talking about, and like when it comes politically and we talking rhetoric and we talking movements, there is like this thing where like we talking about like that modern feminist, the intentionality behind it isn't necessarily for the betterment of the world. I think these people and these political movements are designed to create chaos and to, pull us apart and separate, and as opposed to build unity. And I think that's.
So you don't think that feminism at its heart is good faith?
I think at its heart, yes, but I think what it's evolved to now is not good for the community. I think the belief that women should have all the rights as a man, and the world, there shouldn't be any, limits to what a woman can do. I think that in its essence is a good thing. What it's evolved to when we get to like Cynthia G's and we get to these movements, I think that's where it becomes detrimental.
Gotcha. And so
how can you, my bad.
Yeah. I guess I'll ask this because this would probably be a space where we continue to get thrown off a little bit, I guess. Do you think that so every movement has its bad actors, right? Pretty much you can name the movement and then we can talk about people that represent the movement, the radicals, the ones that do it really, really badly. Are we focusing on the quote unquote radicals of this, the radical feminists the radical modern feminist. It's almost like a tagline. And in doing that, we're overlooking what actually could or is being beneficial.
Hell no.
I mean, but hold on, that's to me. I mean,
That's to everybody.
but like, when we get to the point where it's so political, and is that what parts are detrimental? Because I think what parts aren't detrimental? Because it's like, if we all have the belief that we should treat women better and we should do that, why is there what need?
So
is there
outside of like the
political?
bad actor part, which parts are specifically detrimental? So if we're talking about like the woman that goes on out of her way to make sure she sits on black men. If we're talking about, like, let's say like the Cynthia, like these are the bad actors, right?
But
if we're going down like that,
you was talking about
right.
third and second wave. I think once you get past to my understanding, I'd have to study a little more on the waves, but I think outside of that first wave, it kind of becomes a little detrimental to my understanding when you explain
Okay,
it. I
so
some of that second wave.
I guess we'll eventually kind of like start walking down that, and it'll allow y'all to kind of to unpack where you do think that specifically it is the actual points of feminism and not necessarily like the loud rhetoric of quote unquote the radicals, where y'all do disagree at. Because you might completely disagree with third and second and maybe first wave feminism, which I think that this is a good time for a segue before we get into actually walking down the different waves. This was another question that was posed. It really was posed for the DEI conversation, but it kind of fits into this, and it's a good segue into the first wave of feminism. So I'll ask y'all this: are double standards innate, or is equality the answer?
Double standards are definitely innate. We're physically different, so we're not equal. We're different. No one's better than the other, but we can never be equal when we are wired differently. Right? That's the way it is, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, keep it short. We different, so there's going to be benefits of each gender. Being a man, being a woman, there's going to be consequences of both. Being a man, being a woman, but just naturally having differences, there's going to be double standards. I think they're not always negative. They're not always good, but like you say, with differences comes, different perspectives, different receptions for different things.
Yeah, to G.
Okay.
Man, I think double standards exist, but in the context of sex is a little different, because I don't think it's a double standard that I have a dick and she has a vagina. Like, I don't think that's a double standard. That's just a difference. To me, a double standard isn't, well, they get to sit down and piss. That's not a double standard. A double standard is something that exists, but in roles of hierarchy, parent, child, double standard, boss, subordinate, double standard. Like, that's when double standards exist, when there's a rule of order. And so, do double standards exist? Yes. Should they exist? Like, if beyond just the fact that we have different physical anatomy, I don't think that should be the rule to say men should be have certain standards, that women should be held to different standards just because they have physical differences. Those aren't standards. That's just nature.
So you don't think those physical differences play out in, like, let's say men are biological, like how we're able to have children later in life. So therefore, typically women are the ones to want to get married earlier. And also, like, and that, just generally speaking, like, we're biologically different, so we have to adjust our lives in a certain way. So you just said it's not just that. So it's not just that we have physical parts; it's that those physical parts do have an impact in our life.
I didn't say that they didn't have an impact. As I just said, I don't think comparing the fact that because I have a vagina and someone has a dick or whatever the case, I don't think that that's a double standard conversation. Like they work differently, my nigga. Like they don't do the same thing. So it's not even that they're held to the same standard in that regard. Like
you're misunderstanding what I'm saying, bro. I'm not saying the physical part. I'm talking
you just
about
said physically.
I'm going beyond that. I'm stating that, and I'm saying it. The physical things are not what I'm focused on. I'm talking about the way people move based on their physical differences, not the physical differences in themselves.
So give me an example of what you mean by people move.
I got an example, because if you want to break it down to a penis and vagina, the double standard would be promiscuity in men is more accepted because they have a penis and because women can get pregnant through their vagina.
And that's not an acceptable double standard. That's just some shit that niggas make up to get away with being silly hoes and then hold it over women's head.
Make that up.
Men. Like, let's be clear. Men, that's something that men make up so that they can act and be promiscuous and be whores, and they don't want their women who they want to control. So they want them to be their only little whore. So
what's been made up has been ingrained in the culture, which has created.
But why? But why is it ingrained? Because who's in power? Like who's making the rules?
We have different consequences based on our physical attributes. So if a man is promiscuous, he's not going to have to carry a baby for 9 months. So we're going to have to take that into consideration. I bet all men, if they knew that they had sex, that was a risk going in there, they would probably look at the sexual interaction differently.
Nigga, please. Come on, bro. Like, get out of here. Like, come on, bro. Like, niggas are like, if all things were equal, bro. And niggas like, because it's like you act like, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Like, this idea that a desire to have sex is so male and not feminine is like. That's a fallacy. That like
I didn't say that. I said there's a different risk involved.
But are we? That
doesn't mean it should be a different standard.
I didn't say what it should be. I'm saying there's a different risk involved. You can move however you want to move according to that very real risk. That's up to you. But there is a risk.
So can the women.
Okay, if you want to take that risk, if you want to, but I think a wise woman
all taking risks.
Understand. But I think a woman has a greater risk, though.
But a wise man would know not to just go fuck any and everything out there, too, no?
But I think anytime you're taking a greater risk, you have to take that into consideration than the person who has a lesser risk. That's
what makes it a greater risk.
So I guess what about like post birth control era?
Like what makes it a greater risk?
One of the risks is we all know that women have a higher likelihood of contracting STDs just because they're being penetrated. If I can excuse my YouTube,
is that scientifically proven?
Yeah, bro. Women are more likely to catch STDs than men. Men can harbor and carry them, but think about it, bro. If something's
not yeast infections, STDs. You talking about like UTIs? You talking about like gonorrhea, syphilis?
Bro. If something's going inside your body, you don't think you have a higher risk than being something that's external?
Bro, this is not science.
Even gay men have higher risk because of the nature of their sex. Why do you think the AIDS is so prevalent in the community?
You are, bro. That does not sound like I got, bro. That does not
look it
sound
up.
accurate.
I'll get because
that does not sound accurate. Like so you're saying
science,
because even by that definition, if the gays are penetrating, then why are they more susceptible to straights who penetrate? It don't add up by your definition. Everybody getting penetrated.
Hey, bottom gay dudes have a higher likelihood of getting STDs than straight men. That's a fact.
That's something to do with like a whole other conversation, bro.
Hey, fellas, let's get back on double standards, bro. I think we probably get back on double standards and if you see Nate and Johnny, hop in there. We veered off the path.
Wow. Like y'all some wild boys. But I'm gonna say that like I think there has to be double standard because men and women are different. Of course, like if there's differences, you have to treat people according to their needs and their wants. Men and women have different needs and wants. I think if we talk about like equality and like how much each are needed in the world, I think the way God designed it, men and women are needed equally. If you want to create life, what you need, a man and a woman. They both like it takes both to create life. So I think if we're gonna look at like equality, like of course all humans, are created equal. Now, are we all different and all unique? Of course. And I think feminism the root
So
of things.
where should the double standard stop?
When it's something that is common to both genders, when it's like there's differences, but there's a lot
So
of
that's like
similarities.
like the opportunity, working. Would you say sex is one of those?
I think that's an equal thing because, like you say, the consequences are the. But if there's a child out there, yes, the woman has to carry it, but financially, as a man, you could be on the hook for that too. So there's a risk for you, as a great risk for you as well as a man. So I mean, yes, you might have to carry it, but as a man, you want to be on the hook for 18 years, like
You don't have to
financially.
be.
But who's got a bigger risk, the nigga on the hook for 18 years or the woman who like has birthed this nigga and is gonna be with like you think that's a bigger risk being on the hook for 18 years than being a mother?
I think they equal risk. Honestly, I mean,
That's what my point is. Like, what's the what's the
No,
risk?
that's if you do it right. That's if you do it right. Because if you are a woman and you choose the wrong man, then you're gonna have to do that by yourself.
What if
But
you
if
choose
you
the
a
wrong
man and
chick?
you choose the wrong woman, you be PJ Washington paying 200. Like there's a lot of men that choose the wrong woman too.
But they
And on
also
the hook
choose
for
not
that
to
shit.
be in the life. They can also choose not to be there. A lot of women
Exactly.
don't.
Exactly. Right.
So it's a higher risk. So because you got the risk of pregnancy, most women are more selective than men with who they have sex. Most women, I say, but a lot of niggas will just have sex with anything in the dark because it's like
It's not a problem with niggas though. Is that not our issue?
huh?
Bro, it's not a problem. You
I
keep
think that
saying
goes to,
niggas, bro.
to G's point of dick discipline. It sounds like.
Yeah, like that's a man issue. We shouldn't just fuck anything. That's not a good quality to have, like as a man.
It's a but we don't. But that's a. This is what I mean by a double standard. That standard should be the standard, not just for that like
Right.
this idea of promiscuity. That
Right.
should not be accepted for men or women. And there shouldn't be niggas making justifications for why we can be hoes and they can't. Like, I just don't agree with that.
I don't think nobody's justifying whether
You
somebody should
did
be
though.
promiscuous. No, I said there's a higher risk. That's a totally different thing than what you're saying. I said
Use another double standard. Like what would like maybe providing a man to provide for a woman.
So can I get clarity real quick? Because I thought that Trey was saying men can fuck who they want and women can't because of the risk. I thought that's how you was justifying it. Did anybody else hear it that way, or am I the only one that heard it that way?
You said can do something, then you said it's because you said like a half truth. I said there's a higher risk. That's all I said. And women have a higher risk.
And you said that because in support that because men. I just want to because I was saying that
you're good about it. Say your interpretation of what I said, because all I said is a risk, and you're saying that I'm saying that means that men can be promiscuous.
You said a higher risk. You said a higher risk. You
women
said women
have
a higher risk than men, and they shouldn't be sleeping around. That's what I remember you saying.
No. I said they have a higher risk.
If I'm to interject real quick, it sounds like G's asking, were you justifying the double standard of men being promiscuous by saying the statement that you said?
It's not right. No, it's not right for men to just be promiscuous and be whoremongers. I follow like the word of God. Like women are not supposed to be whores. Men are not supposed to be whoremongers.
So, but y'all brought this up as an example of a good double standard. Like this is what y'all brought up.
I didn't say it. You said the good double standard. You just asked for examples of double standards. You said it was good. Nobody said it was good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a double standard.
So what are the double? What are examples of double standards that should exist?
Women need to consider that they're not physically strong as a lot of men. So when they put themselves in harmful situations like walking around at night, I wouldn't want my daughter to walk around at night, but my son, I would want him to protect his wife if she's walking around at night, stuff like that.
Would you want your son to walk around alone at night?
As a man, way quicker than my son. If I had to send somebody to the store, between my son or my daughter, I'm not going to send my daughter. Well, you would?
I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying I would, but you said you wouldn't. Yeah, we're talking about at night. I wouldn't see any of my kids walking anywhere at night.
If you had to pick one, which would you pick? Your son or your daughter?
I would go.
If you had to pick between your son or your daughter, would you pick your son or would you pick your daughter? And why?
Honestly, it would depend on the kids. This is my point.
Oh,
it's
okay.
like so you just put a blanket statement. You're gonna trust your son to do certain things that you wouldn't trust your daughter to do because he's the son and she's the daughter.
There
If
is
somebody-
a higher
Yeah, go ahead.
safety. There's a higher safety aspect, and so it's not that double standard is bad, but because of our physical dominance, we are expected to be protectors. Like, so I travel a lot. I talk to women about traveling, and they want to go here, want to go there. And, me speaking as a man, I'm like, why don't you just go do this, do that? And their first thing they always say is, well, I don't want to go by myself. I'm a woman. I have to worry about being attacked or being accosted or being things that I don't even think about as a man. I'm sitting here, I'm on Google Flights, I'm booking. I've never thought that I can get out here and somebody might grab me up and stuff. So there is this different standards that we face just based on our.
Hey, Black, can I ask you a question? So what would be the female, like the other side of that coin? Do you understand what I'm saying? So like that one is that men have the responsibility of protecting and in essence in dangerous situations they go out. What's the flip side? Because it being a double standard.
I mean, women, they get provided for, they get protected, they get free drinks at the club, they get there's certain benefits and things that they get for being a woman. But
I guess wouldn't the offshoot of like what you was just describing would be like when you said like your homegirls, they have fear of traveling, they have fear going out at night. That sounds like the like quote unquote one of those reasons or pillars of feminism. As it's not necessarily like a double standard as much as it is a negative repercussion of men being stronger and quote unquote protectors. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So, all right, what would you say would be like a double standard?
You said me?
Mm-hmm.
A one that works. I don't like y'all use the
I guess.
I think that most. I think the body count thing is like a double standard, right? Is it fair or false? I mean, fair, probably not inside the way that we're describing it right now. I'm trying to think of like we already talked about promiscuity.
One that women.
I'm posing. Go ahead.
I'm saying a double standard that women benefit from, because I think we've talked about.
Oh, okay, a double standard that women benefit from.
Yeah.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I got one for you, real quick. If you go to sleep tonight,
but if you get saved, if they're really really pretty, that's probably like a good one.
I mean, pretty. Right. That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's only the pretty ones, right?
That's only for pretty girls. So.
Yeah. So that probably.
Hey, yo, if something falls, if something falls in the house, if it's the middle of the night and you hear something crash downstairs, and you and your wife gonna do rock paper scissors about who goes first, or is you gonna, as a man, gonna go downstairs and maybe she can be behind you,
but see, this goes back to my point of saying like you're using the fact that we have physical differences to set the standard, where it's like that's just a comparative advantage. It makes sense, like that's what makes sense to do when you're in a partnership, because one partner is going to play a role, another partner is going to play a different role. Typically, two people together aren't going to be the same exact thing. Typically not. They're going to have different roles, different strengths, different weaknesses. And when you're paired with a woman as a man, those physical attributes that you're talking about, like you're going to carry the weight in that regard because of the physical attribute piece. Like I'm not denying that men have physical gifts that women don't, outside of physical like strength and height and speed and agility. Like outside of that, what's the like what else is there?
Outside of physical differences, you're right. There is no difference. The difference between men and women is purely physical and also mental, but that's physical too because it's brain anatomy. So we're physically different. So you're telling me to come up with examples that don't have to do with our physicality.
What did you say? My bad. Say that one more time.
You're trying to get me to come up with examples that aren't based on our physicality when the difference between men and women is physical. So that's like impossible. The foundation of why things are different and the double standards is based on our physical differences.
So like, for example, for example, when you like the STEM fields, for example, right? Like why do you think certain fields have like very, very small percentages of women working in them?
Interest.
In your opinion, just pure interest. So you saying women don't like math? Is that?
Of course, I'm not saying women don't like math, but I'm saying if women who are interested in doing that, do it. I know I work with plenty of women in my field, and I'm in tech. Nobody's saying I don't want to work with her because she's a woman. The woman who want to do it, do. Nobody's saying you can't get into college because you're a woman. When in my classes, some of the best people in the classes were women. But also, you look at some of the fields that are more dominated by women, and you don't see a lot of men there. I'm not interested in being in those fields. So I don't think we need to expect for women to have the same interest in things that are typically female dominated, just like I don't want to be interested in the things that are typically female dominated. And that's just how it is.
What if those same roles that are female dominated are the same roles that they could only work before the workforce allowed women to have other types of roles? What if that was true?
I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. I think a lot of the things that women did, like I like working with my hands, with carpentry, even today. Back then, men worked with carpentry. A lot of times women like to do, they like to do like crafts and stuff like that. I don't like to do stuff like my grandmama sewed, my sister sews. That's okay. I don't want to sew.
There's more men in fashion, arguably, than women these days. Like
gay men mostly, but yeah.
But they're still men, bro.
They're still men, but at the end of the day, typically men have.
Do we get to count the gay women as niggas?
The exception don't make the rule, bro.
It doesn't. Like, I'm just saying, like, you just take away the fact that a nigga's a man because he gay, but then we can't take it on the other side.
He took away that himself.
I like
you saying gay men are masculine?
Hey, fellas, it seemed to devolve here every single time. What I like to say is, what I like to say is, right now we're watching. This is like the Golden State and Cavs in the finals. We got KD and LeBron right now. We got G and Trey. They're obviously on polar opposites of this conversation, and I don't think it's going to let up anytime soon. But I think that where we're at, that question was building to ask just the basic question. That the antecedent of, not antecedent, but like the beginning of the beginning of feminism was based off of the quote unquote women's suffrage movement, where there was fighting for their rights to vote, their right to own land, their right to not be their husband's property when they first got married, or once they got married. Just the basics of human rights. Is there any rebuttal to the need for feminism at its beginning?
Yeah, because the whole reason feminism came about was because black men got the right to vote, and white women were like, hell nah, you gonna let this Negro vote and I can't? That's where feminism and women's suffrage started. And then they were able to get black women to side with the white women, be like, yeah, you're gonna let these Negroes vote, not us. While white women were in their role the whole time, they didn't get rowdy until black men got.
Are you saying that women shouldn't have gotten the right to vote, or wanted the right to vote?
Watch it. Watch it.
I'm just playing. Of course, I think everyone should have the right to vote. All adults should have the right to vote. But I don't think that as black women.
Do you think that they should have wanted equal rights? Like the right to me, like the ability to own property?
I think black women should have just. I think if black women had supported.
Well, right now, I'm not like making this like specifically race.
As black people, then feminism. As black people, I look at feminism for a racial lens, because I'm like purely black empowerment. Like I don't see, and when I see black women, I think feminism is a fight between white women and white men, because we didn't come up with any of this stuff that they're dealing with. I think if it was under our control, we wouldn't do none of this stuff that they have to deal with. Historically, there are black matriarchies that are in Africa. There ain't no European matriarchies.
They got a whole queen,
bro. I'm talking about, it's still a patriarchal system. I'm
just saying they got a whole queen that like is the face of everything. and has
Somebody help me
that
out,
royal
bro.
family. That's not an example of a European matriarch. I'm just saying, like, there's a clear example of the queen being the face of the shit going on, and the Queen of England was the OG who made a lot of these deals that gave Britain the position that they have in terms of her relationships, strategically marrying into rulers of other countries so that they could get their support over time. Like, she made sure that her families got married with the rulers over from France and other allies that are now their allies. Like, it's all intertwined, interweave because of that queen.
So she was a queen, but the culture was still a patriarchy, right? So why didn't she do something about it if it's a matriarchy?
I just know she was the queen, bro. and she had princesses. Like, I'm not saying that they was giving women equal rights. I'm just saying that's an example of a matriarchy.
Some matriarchy, because in the black cultures and the matriarchies I'm talking about, women, it was not a patriarchy outside of that. Women actually were held in higher regard. That's not what happened in Europe.
And you saying that happened in Africa?
Bruh, like, yeah, we had all types of queens in Africa. Not say they had all types of queens in Africa. We had stuff like that over here in the tribes in America as
well. He went hitting colors.
I almost slipped.
Getting colors Tariq right there.
You gotta watch it.
But Trey, saying all that to say, are you just refusing to answer that question?
The question is, was there a place for feminism as far as getting the right to vote and getting all rights and stuff like that?
Yeah, was there a need for that inside
for black women? No, not for black women.
Black women didn't need. Okay, all right. A Black, what is your thoughts?
As far as voting goes, I feel like anybody that
first wave of feminism.
Yeah, like they deserve all of those things. There was a lot of, like I say, division and conflict between how white women still treated black women at the time. What spurred the whole suffrage movement, as Trey said, which was black men getting the right to vote and things like that. But yeah, it's like basic necessities, basic things. You're a grown adult, because the thing about every woman is not guaranteed a man. So if you don't have a husband, and you can't open up a bank account, what do? You can't buy a house. What do? You're working for yourself, but you can't vote for, certain people in elections. What do? So of course, I think those things are needed. I think how black women got integrated into the movement, some of those things can be argued because, their right to vote in a white supremacist America, is it going to benefit us as a whole, or is it going to be used as something to divide this black man and this black woman, which eventually it did evolve into, with them systematically, really sitting into rooms like, we're going to give concessions to these black women. We're going to make it so that they don't need their men. We're going to give them welfare. We're going to give them certain things for being single moms that we're not going to give to single men. So they strategically did go in to separate black men and black women. But overall, women do deserve the same rights, the same general rights, like to vote, to open a bank account, to write a check, to buy property, to get a house. Like, they should have that same opportunity for sure.
Okay, gotcha. Johnny, what's your thoughts? First wave feminism. Was the movement necessary?
I mean, and like I say, I do believe, because me personally, I think all people are created equal. I think the right to, and like I say, I'm reading the comments right now. They say women didn't even necessarily want the right to vote or whatever, but I think if they did, they should have been able to get it. And I ain't trying to, I think I said earlier, I agree with the first wave. Second, third wave, I don't know.
And this is happening in America. This is supposed to be the land of the free, the most progressive country in the world. So it just makes sense for them to have the same access and opportunities. Like, if we're this country, we're this democracy, we're the land of this free, this melting pot. But you got black people oppressed, you got women oppressed, you got all these different factions oppressed. It's a fallacy, at the end of the day. So we have to be progressive to lead the world, because eventually that's what it did. And then our movement spur other feminist movements in other countries and stuff, because now it's conceptualized. You got cultures where you can't even conceptualize as a woman having certain things, but now you're looking at this country and these women are getting these different things. So now it's becoming like a global thing. So I believe in the basic necessities of all people. I believe if you say you live in a land of the free, you can't tell a woman she can't get a job strictly because she's a woman, or she can't buy or do something because of their gender. Like, that's just like real, that's backwards. You know, the race thing, like I said, when the race come in, it complicates the whole thing. But just general, we're talking about no race involved, then yeah, women deserve basic rights. Like,
Gotcha. G, round us off.
Yeah, man. It's like I said, going back to the beginning, I agree with the idea of the first wave, but I also agree that that was used in a strategic way to target our community, and it was to our detriment long term. I agree that women should have equal rights. I also agree that the Black women's movement should not have been merged with the white women's movement. So, like, I think both of those things are true.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I guess it sounds like the majority would say the first wave of feminism, that women's suffrage, it was necessary. I guess it makes sense to kind of move on to the second wave of feminism. I'll read down a couple of, like, quote unquote, the bullet points. We can attack each one of them if y'all like to see whether we agree, disagree, if it was beneficial, if it was like a pointed attack. You have the reevaluation of traditional gender roles. You have the end of sex-based discrimination, where now you can't not get a job specifically only because you're a woman. You have the Roe versus Wade. You have, like, the whole abortion thing. What is that? Pretty much the choice. You have the no-fault divorce, and then it is coupled with the civil rights movement, the Vietnam protest. Like, they all kind of like made this own little medley. So I guess we can start off with the reevaluation of traditional gender roles. Do you think that has helped hurt us as a people? Do you think that has that was a necessary thing that needed to be addressed for Black women? I guess some people say Black women haven't specifically been able to participate in what people call the traditional version of gender roles since the beginning of America. Either way, what is your thoughts?
the gender roles, first off, I'm sorry, I'm getting killed in our text messages that we don't have no woman on this panel right now.
Hey, tell them I can drop the link right now.
I'm telling them to join in. But what hurts us with gender roles is trying to grasp onto traditional aspects, but not acknowledging that the world has changed in so many ways that have made the traditional aspects obsolete. So you find people not really evolving with the new roles that have been created, and wanting the benefits of traditional things, but also the benefits of modern things. And I think that's kind of where the clash is. It's like we're comparing 2024 men to 1950 men, or maybe even 1970 men and women, but not acknowledging conditions and circumstances and wages and all the different things that have changed since those times. And so it's like I want what my grandma and my granddaddy had, but their rent was also $100 a month, and yeah, they stayed together 50 years. But your granddaddy used to beat your grandma's ass, and she couldn't do shit. She couldn't go to work. So it's like a lot of things that people don't acknowledge, and it's like there seems to be people not wanting to evolve as far as gender roles are concerned. Like, I don't really believe in gender roles. I believe a man should protect a woman because we are physically stronger. But beyond that, we have to look at like where we are now. It's like women can make money now. Women can get a bank account now. Women can buy property now. So why are we still having the same expectations of the 1950s, but you're working in 2024 and you have access and you can make 100K or 200K or be a CEO now and do things that women in the traditional era couldn't do, or even men, we don't live in towns where it's factories and there's Ford plants and there's certain things around us where everybody in the community has a solid job and you have a nuclear home you can come back to, people live in apartments. So it's like certain things, people are just not evolving with the times. It's like they want the good of the past, but not the bad, and they want the good of the future, but not the evolution.
Gotcha. So in essence, you do believe that it was necessary to reevaluate those quote unquote gender roles.
Yeah, you have to. If times change, you have to change the dynamics of relationships. You have to change the dynamics of what a quote unquote man is. Like, we don't hunt and gather. We don't fucking do these things anymore. Like, we can still be protectors. We can still be providers, but we don't have to be like the only provider. We don't have to be like the only sole income anymore. If you got it, cool. It ain't tricky if you got it. But in America, this is a 2-income, 3-income country now. Most men, white or black, they ain't got it like that.
Would any of y'all marry a woman that made more than you?
Yeah, I would.
Absolutely.
Depending on her attitude.
I'm not like emasculating me every day and coming in like, nigga, this is my house. Like, nah, but I'm very secure in that. Like,
my manhood don't lie on a dollar.
I'm dating doctors and therapists and women to make money. So it's like I'm comfortable and secure.
Hey, can I slide in here real quick? Just
go ahead.
I just got one point.
I'm gonna let you. But to G, I have I don't know if this is unpopular or not. But I have a income basement that I have for females. I find that it's amazing in the vetting process. It keep you away from like a certain version of women, to be honest. But Johnny,
I can't hate on that.
No, I was telling somebody about the income basement yesterday. I like that. But I think like especially we talking about black women and like the analyzing the gender roles. I think based on the oppression that black men have historically had in this country, I think black women have naturally had to take a different role than white women have had to take in this country. And we're talking about overcoming said oppression. I think that like we need all the allies we can have. And of course we want to protect our women. Of course we don't, black women I've been seeing it on Instagram and TikTok. Black women don't want to be tough no more. They don't want to be fighting these things. Like black women want to come into their soft era. And so it's like as a black man, we have to understand why the roles have changed, why we have this modern version of feminism, and then we have to see like how are we gonna be better, protectors and providers if we want to go. So of course we have to look at the different roles. And we just have, we have to analyze the different roles and see what's been, because historically black men have been oppressed unlike white men have. So our women, if we were going to have these families, our women had to step up. I don't necessarily think that's the same today. And so we can look at them now, but in the past, definitely.
Can I respond to a comment from a commenter?
Okay, go ahead.
Says, so if she makes more money and then has kids, are you going to quit your job and be your mother? I'd be a father, but it depends on the temperament of the woman. Like some women don't trip. And it's like they just like women today who stay at home, they say that nurturing or taking care of kids is just as valuable just as much as work. If a woman has a career or an income that can provide for everybody and she's cool with her man taking care of the house, then what would be the issue? Like, if y'all are cool, I have a best friend, I can't say his name, but he's in a situation. They have 2 children. They live in New York. His girl is like big time in the fashion world, makes hella money. He stays at home and he takes care of their kids. No,
Shorty said yes or no, bro.
be a father. You don't got to disrespect niggas. Like, nah.
Chill, Tar. Chill.
He'll be a father. And yeah, I would stay at home if the woman was cool with that. Like,
she would have to tell you that she was cool with that. She would make that rule.
I'm not gonna ask like, oh baby, you make $300K, can I just stay at the crib and chill, scroll all day? I watch the kid. Nah, it would have to be something like, yo, I don't want my kids going to a daycare. I make this money. You really don't need to work. I love my career. You got dreams. I'm still working on shit. I'm still doing something at the crib. She just makes more money. You know, I might be a stay-at-home, work-from-home crib. So, like, yeah, I got the kids. You good. Go do your thing. Like, when she comes home, we can switch up. But I think people have to be more open-minded to different dynamics. Because there is some women out here that make hella money. There's some niggas that will never make over $100K in their life. It's just reality. So, do you just not make it work? Like, I feel like it just has to be like, what makes sense? What are you secure with? What are you insecure with? Some men are insecure. I can't deal with her making more money than me. Like, so I'm going to treat her like shit. I'm going to exert my power some kind of way. And some people are very secure with themselves. Some women are very secure with their man, being at home, like being a great father, teaching their kids and shit. But you have to make it work for you.
I think a lot of men are insecure about that. Not some. I think a lot of men would be insecure about that. You disagree, Trey?
I think y'all are very hard on men. Like, you saying a lot of men would be insecure. I think a lot of men want to be the provider for their homes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think
so hear me out. So to that point, if you want to be a provider and then yet you are meeting somebody who seemingly you can't provide for, that makes a nigga insecure. That's what I like.
If she's fit, friendly, feminine, and makes more money, that's one thing. If she makes more money and she's none of those things, I'm not insecure for not wanting to deal with her.
Maybe you, but I think a lot of dudes, not some, I think more than some, are still insecure if she checks those boxes, but she just makes significantly more money than him. Because the reality is, in a household, it's perceived. Like, why is it perceived? Like, why is this a thing? Because it's perceived that if you make more money, you have more power in the relationship. That's like the underlying sort of elephant in the room when it comes to this income conversation. Because if you are the person who makes the significant bulk of the money, pays the significant amount of the bills from what you provide, you're going to have more of a say in how those funds are allocated and spent in the household than the other person. And when it's a man in that situation, it's like more normal. But when men fall into a dynamic where she's the one making that bread, a lot of dudes, I think, are not secure enough. I'm not saying all, but I think it's more than some. I think it's a pretty significant chunk of men who would not be comfortable with living in that lifestyle.
I think that sounds like indoctrination, because I think we need to be careful when we say negative things about a group and then say, I think it is that way, without like.
I'm going based off of niggas. I just base it off. It's not. I got anecdotal evidence.
I guess, Trey, let me ask you this: do you think that most men will be comfortable being stay-at-home dads?
It depends on the woman she's with. I think a lot of times,
like if they're with like the most, you said the fit, friendly,
check all the boxes, fit, friendly, feminine, all that.
So
the Bernie Mac show. So
I'm sure. I'm just asking you. You think that most men, though, you think most men would be cool, wouldn't have an issue being a stay-at-home dad if she checks all those boxes?
Man, the whole spectrum depends on her attitude. Like, you got Bernie Mac type all the way down to the pimps that stay at home while they shawty's going to make the bread. I mean, I don't think men have a problem with women going out there and getting it if her attitude is straight. But I think ideally men do want to.
So do you think that most men care to be the provider?
Yes, of course, that's an innate thing, but I don't think that most men are like.
You don't see how those are like innate contradictions?
No, because I think in the society that we live in, most times, 9 times out of 10, the woman is not going to be making as much, and she's going to want you to do that. So I think you being okay with that doesn't make you insecure.
That doesn't engage with the hypothetical we're at.
But the hypothetical is so like, you're saying there's so many like. You're saying that if
It's not a bunch of nuances. Like, it was very cut and dry.
No, I'm saying if there's a woman who makes more money than you and she's fit, friendly, and feminine, I don't think many men would have a problem with her if she comes and makes some money and she treats you right. Nah, but she has an attitude that comes to that money. Then yes, most men are going to want to be dominated by a woman who throws the fact that she makes more money in his face.
Well, you move the goalpost.
That's not insecure.
No,
so
I think
that
he was speaking about specifically men working, pretty much becoming stay-at-home dads, and that most men would be insecure about that concept. You was talking about it's not you was just talking about her making more money or making her own money, but you just said that most men they care to be the provider, correct?
Yeah, they want to be, but if she's
right,
not, if she attitude is right,
but you're also saying that most men would be cool with being stay-at-home dads and not being the provider.
If her attitude is right, yes, I think most men just want to be in a situation with a loving relationship with a wife that's respectful.
Okay.
I think it's based on like most men would be insecure because it's not common to have an attractive woman that makes way more money than you that's cool with providing. It's very rare. So because it's uncommon culturally, it's looked down upon. But there are rare exceptions. Like if you dating a Halle Berry getting 20 million a movie, or you dating like somebody who's a doctor or I won't use Halle because they usually date niggas with money too. But I've met women who are professionals who love what they do, so they don't mind working. Like they like being a doctor or a therapist or a school principal or something, and they'll tell you, I just want a good man. I don't really care about his money, as long as he's doing something, as long as he got this and treats me well. There's some women out there like that exist, you know. So there are some men that can be insecure, that can like they might try to exert power, but there are exceptions where people are cool with it. You know, the man is, like I say, I think when you think at home, it's like the dude just sitting at home playing video games. Like he can still have something going for him. He can still have an income that's not much more than hers. You know, he can still have a business or something, but he might do it from home. Like he might run a store. He might have a skate shop. I've seen like so many examples of this working. It's like just both of them being secure with what they have. Now, when you have a woman that's working and making more money, but she's like worn the fuck out and she don't like that shit, then yeah, it's gonna be problems because she's gonna come home and no matter how good he's cleaned up and got the kids together, she's still like, I had to work 50 hours this week. So if she hate her job, then nah. But there's some women that just have great careers, they make a lot of money, and they meet a man that they really like, and he don't make more money than them. He probably never will, and they are cool with that. But it's just that imbalance, that dynamic is rare. So society looks down upon it because most women don't make the most money, so they want a man to provide. They want him to have it, and the men that don't, like, you're a man at home, but let more women make more money than men, and they don't have no choice but to still choose men who make less. Then you'll see the dynamic shifting and stuff. So yeah,
it's dynamics. And can I add to what Abel was saying real quick? If it's for every man that's insecure because his wife makes less money than him, there's a woman that makes more money than her man and she treats her man poorly. So is he insecure if he's being treated poorly, or is he just like want his respect?
He has no self-esteem if he's with a woman that treats him poorly, is what he is. I don't even know if niggas like that. Yeah, hell yeah. Hey, so Trey, you gonna blame you? So you with a woman who treats you poorly, and it's not your fault, my nigga.
Hey, let me. Can I hop in there? Can I hop in there?
And tell Tara that women don't be wanting to work.
Hold up. So men can't take accountability for this. I just want to be clear on that.
So women can't take accountability for it,
bro. I don't gotta stay with no bitch that's treating me wrong.
Okay, and a woman doesn't have to have a bad attitude when she makes more money than her man.
And I won't be around to see it if that were the case. That's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of man stays in a dynamic where he getting abused by his woman? That sounds like a pussy.
I agree with that. But what type of woman comes makes more money than her man and treats him bad? That sounds like a bitch.
The ones that stay single. Yeah, the ones that stay single. Like
I'm saying, so we're talking about men being insecure, but we're not talking about the dynamic that comes with women that out earn their men a lot of times. And then you're calling men insecure and you're ignoring that dynamic that's innate, oftentimes.
Innate, it might be a bit of a stretch, but
Oftentimes.
But I'm just saying the fact that the average man would not be secure in that dynamic, even if she's got a great attitude, because that man in that dynamic would want to be able to feel equally yoked in that dynamic where he's bringing something to the table too. He don't want to feel like I don't have anything to contribute and put food on the table with. I don't know how many average men would feel comfortable long-term in that situation. I just don't.
I don't know how many women admire their man who they out-earn and put the food on the table for the family, and they still admire their man. I don't know too many men that do that. So it goes both ways. It's not all the men's fault. My fault, John.
Nah, I just want to hop in because the question is, would most men be insecure? Is it was that the original question? I'm asking Quint.
Oh, that was my specific question. That came from, I think G made a statement about men being stay-at-home dads if somebody made X amount of
and Tara said something in the comments. Yeah, and
about like being a quote unquote mother or something like that.
Okay, but I think my answer, like most men would probably have some kind of insecurity about that, just naturally, of like if you feel like you're supposed to be a protector and provider, and your woman is out providing you, I think naturally you have some insecurity. I think it's possible, especially if you have good communication and you're with the right partner. It is possible, like with the attitude, and attitude comes to communication, being able to have a proper communication. I think it's possible, but I think most men would, based on how I was raised in my community, and so I think most men would have some kind of insecurity with it. Not to say it's impossible, not to say it wouldn't work, but naturally.
Johnny, have any of y'all ever turned down a woman just because she makes more money than you? Like you great,
right, exactly.
Have you been like it's purely based on how she?
Hey, let me ask you this: Have you ever been with a woman that can take care of herself better than you can? Yeah. And like she could go out and buy the big that. Is that not? Have you never had an insecurity about that?
No, I didn't. I didn't have an insecurity. It only went left when she started holding it over your head. Like,
thank you.
It's based. Oh, you muted G. But it's based on.
But that's insecurity, though, bro. That even though she it might be triggered, but that she's making you feel insecure.
Or it's pride. It's like I'm still a man. You can still have pride and self-respect as a man and not be insecure all the time. I think insecure is how you respond. If it's you responding with abuse, if you responding with negativity, but you're not just going to disrespect me because like.
But I'm saying you can even go through it though. Like you can even like try to do it, but like you can still have an insecurity even if you're doing the thing. You could be with the woman who's making more money than you, but you say most men wouldn't have an insecurity. Like if she could
demanding respect is insecure according to y'all, right?
And I guess this is something that seems like we're doing. It seems like we're personalizing it. Remember that the statement is most men, not specifically if any of us. It sounds like none of us have an issue with a woman making more than them, correct?
I guess we're all exceptions, since most men.
Well, I don't. I know a lot of my circle outside of this. Like shit, hell, if Real was to be in the chat right now, there's a few guys that just really don't rock with that whole thing and think that it only comes with negative consequences. I've definitely sat around and heard these conversations.
Have any of us done it though? Like, have anybody been like long term with a woman that makes significant? Like,
I have.
I've been with both. I've been with women that make more money and there's been no issues. I've been with women that make more money and they can't wait to throw it in your face as soon as they feel away. So it just depends on how she perceived it. Like
I've been with women that made less than me and did the exact same things. Like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's like it all comes down to attitude. Like I paid all the bills and had a girl living with me, no problem. The dynamic switch and she started making more money. She started talking big, like.
No, I get it. All I know is the manosphere and the red pill community existed for a reason. Because that's kind of all they talked about was men needing to be the sole provider. And they had, like legions of men giving money, donating money just to hear like the misogyny porn that was a lot of these talking points.
But I think a lot of
that's
that
a mischaracterization.
you wanting to exert power. So if you want to exert power over a woman, you need to make more money. You need to be the provider, and then you can tell her what to do. If you don't have those things, and you don't have any say over a woman. So I think a lot of that is rooted in just wanting to have control and power, which a lot of men do. If you have more money, you make a woman dependent on you. That's the type of woman you want. You can treat her any kind of way. You can do anything you want, and she's dependent on you because you're the financial provider. But if you want somebody to think for themselves, that can make their own money, and y'all can respect each other, that's not no issue. It's just not common.
It sounds like y'all trying to make it a bad thing to want to be the provider. Like you're making it sound like that's insecure.
No, I think that most of us, I think what everybody's saying, or a few of us were saying, is that most men want to be the provider.
And what's wrong with that?
Nothing. That's literally the point. I think that's
because of that
my
fact.
Point, AG, hold on. But my point is, most men want to be the provider, right? Right. But if you're not able to, why wouldn't there naturally be insecurity for most men if you're not able to be what you want to be in the relationship?
Because it depends on how she treats you. And if it comes to being treated bad, then I think, like G said, any man with self-respect is not going to allow himself to be disrespected.
Most men want to be the provider because they want to be treated like a man. They want to be respected, because commonly, if you're not, a woman is going to run all over you. She's not going to respect you and stuff. But there are exceptions, exceptional women.
So you saying women only will respect a nigga if he make a certain amount of money?
Typically, yeah.
I don't know. I just I don't know. I can't.
The majority, yes, even the good ones. I talk to them like, when I get pregnant, I don't want to work. I need a man that can do this, that can provide, that can do that. And if you don't, they're going to talk to you any kind of way. They're going to treat you any kind. They'll tell you this. This is the majority. Now, there's always exceptions, but the majority of women are not going to respect a man who don't make more money than them or who can't provide. They might in the beginning phase when shit is cool, y'all just fucking around and stuff, whatever. But when y'all start talking about life and being together and being serious, and y'all doing real adult shit together, she ain't gonna respect you if you can't provide.
You saying like, make more money at work? So would you are you saying like make more money or not work at all? I guess I'm trying to understand. Are you saying that a woman wouldn't respect you? Let's say that.
I get it if a nigga don't got a job.
Let's say you make 60K and she make 80K.
They don't even respect. You can have a good little blue collar job or something or whatever. Make 60K, make 50K, whatever. There's women who don't respect that. That's not enough for them. Like you can be.
But do you think most women, like if you're making 50K and she's making 60K, she's not going to respect you,
bro? Women like ballers. That's not new. Women like ballers. They've always liked ballers. I don't know why we're acting like that's like some new concept.
You gotta be that for women to respect you. Is crazy to be like.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that either.
That's not what we're saying. But typically, women don't respect. They're not going to slave at work and then come home and then give you affection after they've been busting their butt. Otherwise, the light bill not going to get paid. You gonna get some love? Like what?
So, are you talking about like a man that doesn't work? Help me understand.
I'm saying if she doesn't want.
So are you saying like if a woman works in general, she's not going to respect you?
If she doesn't want to have to do those. Right. If she enjoys her career, she's doing it, she's happy, she's secure, everything like that, and she comes home and she treats you good because she enjoys doing what she's doing. That's one thing. If she's slaving at work, she hates her job, she listens to her boss, she listens to that man, and then she comes home and this is her thing. She provides for you. You're dependent on her. That dynamic is not conducive to like a respectful, what they call it, a traditional dynamic. And it is what it is. That doesn't make me insecure. But that's just like how it's always been. Like women like to be provided for. Men like to provide. Typically, there's always exceptions.
Well, yeah, I think that was the overall point that I was making. I think G was making. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're just aggressively agreeing. I think that was the overall point. I think we're getting hung up on the statement of the word insecure.
Yeah.
But like. To continue to move it on, I would like to go to another tenet of the quote unquote second wave of feminism. maybe this will be a quick one and we kind of move on. Maybe it won't. We'll see if we get stuck here. Sex-based discrimination. Should women not be able to work certain jobs in essence?
Of course they should be able to. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I think they should have the choice to want to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend certain jobs for women, but I can't deny you because of your gender either. Like, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of an example, but we don't really see women doing.
I got one for you,
like a
rigging,
firefighter,
rigging trucks, open big doors, moving throwing big chains around all day.
Yeah, construction workers. I mean, there are exceptions in all of these things, but
I was about to say them. Never mind. That'll be racial epithets.
yeah, I mean, but then you don't want to see men. How many men you see working at the beauty salon? I mean, if they do, they're not straight. You know.
Yeah, our hands are too big for dishes and stuff like that.
Somebody get Trey.
This nigga crazy.
So I guess before we move on, is there anybody? So there's no disagreement on that in general, though, right?
Oh boy.
All right, cool. That's
I'm just playing.
We have Roe versus Wade. I don't know why I couldn't say that. The idea of abortion. That was one of those big tenets to the movement. We don't have to get into like a specific pro-life, pro-choice conversation, but do you think that them getting the opportunity to choose in that lawsuit and that push for that was beneficial, non-beneficial, detrimental? What are your thoughts?
Non-beneficial. I've learned that Roe was the lady that started Roe versus Wade. She lied about being attacked by a group of black men, and then she later came back and said she regretted being a part of all that. And then I also know that they started the eugenicists really pushed that because they said that the lady, I forgot her name, one of the first ladies who was a Margaret Sanger. Yeah, she said black people were like weeds, so she wanted to push abortion on the black community just to deal with that. So now in present day, it's kind of interesting that it seems like we've kind of been the main, like black liberal women have been like carrying the torch for something that was set up for our genocide. And then I'm not saying one way or another, but I think that's an interesting like circle to be in.
So you think women gaining the choice of abortion negative?
I'm saying it started out of something that was genocidal.
I understand that. I'm just asking like that straightforward question. Like the pillar of the movement, not specifically like it's antecedent where it started at.
So you're saying women shouldn't have a right to choose, or they should?
I don't think it benefits. I don't think it's a benefit for black people.
So they shouldn't have the right to choose.
No. You're asking that question. I was trying to make it more like a part of the larger conversation. But you're asking that, I think outside the cases of like medical emergency or rape or incest or things like that, then I think that if you're using it because to deal with a decision that you made, I don't know if I like to see that.
You agree with that governor, that dude running for governor?
I think he said no exceptions.
What's the black dude name?
Well, no, I don't agree with that. He said no exceptions.
He said that. I thought he said that there were exceptions, but you shouldn't be having abortions just because you was irresponsible and made a bad decision type deal. I thought that's what he said.
Well, I agree that you shouldn't like be able to be irresponsible. Then I don't agree with that, but I think maybe there should be a certain amount. If you do like a 1 or 2, like a habitually doing that, man, that seems like. I don't know if that's something a cause.
If I was to reword the question, do you think that women getting the right to choose was beneficial for their overall movement and self-autonomy?
I think this having agency over your body is just beneficial in general. Like it shouldn't even be a conversation. If it's your body, I don't really believe in the government having say in it. Like, of course, we all idealistically we don't want it to be irresponsible, but I don't think women are just getting abortions every month. I mean, I don't know.
They do the plan B now, get ahead of it.
But that's not even really technically an abortion. That's more of a preventative measure. You don't even know.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes you just like, just in case we had a wild night, let me take it. Just, I don't know. That's different from like taking a test, finding out you're pregnant, getting an abortion. 3 months later, doing it again. 4 months later, like, so.
It's about them birth control abortions.
Yeah, but
not late term though. My bad. Not late term. Not like late term abortion.
Yeah,
like you got a baby that's developed and everything, and like you don't agree with that though. Maybe if it's early on.
I feel like after a certain point, it shouldn't be allowed. Like, I don't really know. I'm not a woman, so I can't say. I don't know the trimesters and stuff, but I do feel like maybe like, I don't know, 3 months or something, or when you can like see the baby forming, you waited too late. But I feel like when you're in that, but then that's risky to say too, because then some women don't show the same. Like there's instances where some women like, I didn't start showing until I was 6-7 months. So at the end of the day, I don't think. I mean, it's exceptions, but it happens. Like I've seen that, like chicks just like not really show, and then it just the belly pop up to 6-7 months. But I just think the government shouldn't have a law around it, because I don't know if it's gotten out of hand to the point where, all right, we got to do something. These are just getting abortions every week, like killing babies. Like, I don't think it's gotten that bad. I just think it's like wasting government time to control what a woman do when it's not that serious. And also, as a woman, if you're responsible, you don't even got to worry about this shit at the end of the day. The exceptions are rare. The rape and all those are very small percentages and stuff. But at the end of the day, the government shouldn't have no say in what none of us do with our body if it's not killing grown, alive people and stuff,
Gotcha. So in essence, you would say beneficial more than not, to be able to have agency in your body.
Yeah, it's beneficial. Okay. Like, freedom is freedom at the end of the day. We the land is free, like I said earlier. People got to be free to choose, and that's morally you might have your thing, religiously might not feel good, but that's their choice. She want to kill the baby, like, fuck, that sucks, but that's her choice,
Hey,
that's one that got to carry it.
Hey, let me
Johnny.
Yeah,
I'm just going to react you to prompt. Was women getting the right to choose beneficial for themselves, their agency, XYZ?
I mean, for women, yeah. I mean, it was definitely beneficial. I mean, it gives them the freedom to do with their bodies what they want to do. For women, that question was for women. Now we talking about for Black people. I think it changes, and as Black men and leaders in the community, I think the challenge isn't to restrict their freedom. I think we should create spaces and places, and no matter how hard it is, and I don't know whose fault it is, but we should create a space in the world or try our hardest to where they don't have to do that, but they should have the freedom. I think women should have the freedom over their bodies. I don't think a man should tell a woman what they can and can't do with a body, with her body. But I think you say what?
They add one more thing. They go do it anyway. Like, you can make it a law. You can take it. All that's gonna do is create a black market. All it's gonna do is create it underground.
Well, women been doing it for years between like just reckless behavior and doing. A woman could do it.
And dying from those attempts as well.
Why you give them the choice so they can do it safely? Because if you don't give them the choice, they're going to do it secretly. They're going to do the shady doctor. They're going to take the shady pills and all of that shit, and something worse might even happen. So give them the be pro-choice. Let them do this shit healthily, and then like, all right, shit get out of hand. Somebody come in like, all right, Sarah, this is your 8th abortion this year. Then yeah, we might have to do therapy. We might do some things.
I think she eventually ain't gonna be able to get pregnant. That's kind of how it ended up working. But all right, so Johnny, it sounds like you think that it was a positive. It was beneficial.
For women, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if it has any. I don't know what the positive is. I honestly don't know what the positive is.
Them having a choice.
I agree that
freedom.
So I agree that government shouldn't be making that choice. So I agree there shouldn't be like a a law to say, like, I feel like if you don't want to wear a helmet riding a motorcycle, go ahead, go right ahead, my brother. You don't want to wear your seatbelt, you old enough, you an adult, go right ahead. I don't necessarily think I should get a ticket because I didn't wear a seatbelt. I'm a grown ass man. If I don't want to put my seatbelt, I don't want to put my seatbelt on. That's me, my risk, etc. When it comes to abortion, I feel like the government shouldn't be telling women if they can or can't do something like this. Mm-hmm. But personally, I don't see a positive in going through with something like that as an adult today. Now, again, there are exceptions to the rule, but I think when Kanye was going off the rails, one of the things that kind of got swept under the rug is like the fact of how much abortion impacts the Black community and future Black babies. And when you just look at us as a population, you know, flowers grow from concrete, if you will. A lot of our leaders across all different areas, many times they don't come from privileged backgrounds. They come from rough backgrounds, upbringings. Things weren't picture perfect, and yet they were molded into something that became that. Who would have knew that the rose would have came from concrete, right? So I feel like if you are, you know, whether it be prepared, unprepared, expected, unexpected, just where I am today, I feel like before you result in that, like, there are other alternatives. Can a family member help? I don't like the foster system, if you will. But I think that, like, you should explore all alternatives before you resort to the abortion, in my opinion.
Can I add to what you said real quick?
Oh, for sure. I guess I'll say this really well. I got two things. Quick housekeeping. We will be dropping the call-in link in about 15, 20 minutes. Again, we'll love to hear y'all opinion when it comes down to these conversations that we're having. What's your overall opinion on feminism, first wave, second wave, third wave? We're kind of like going point by point to an extent. Love to get y'all opinion. Second, let's I guess G, I know we can kind of get into a full abortion conversation, but let's kind of save that. That's probably its own unpacked in itself. The whole pro-life, pro-choice, and where we land at. But let's try and kind of like close this one off and go to the next point. But Trey, on you.
To bring it back to feminism, I'm not, you know, it's kind of like puzzling me why instead of fighting for abortion, we all know that Black women have the highest risk of for death during labor and infant death. It seems like that should be a higher priority than abortion. So it seems like I understand why they would push that onto us more than fighting that. But it seems like we should, like y'all were saying, why don't we try to make a better place so women don't have to do that versus trying to make it, trying to push that like it's like kind of glorified a little bit because they say a right to choose and everything. And the last thing, I wonder if a lot of the promiscuity that we're seeing increase is because abortions are available and they have that back. I think if that wasn't an option, we would see a lot more caution. Like
that would go to like the Plan Bs too, right? Like in the day of Plan B, because Plan B is our generation. That didn't even exist until like almost college, if I remember, high school, college. So
yeah, it was like right at it was like into college, at least for me. I'm a 05 high school graduate.
It was middle of college for me. I'm 07, so yeah.
But it sounds like we're close.
Plan B had niggas going reckless.
I guess the last point that I'll ask on the second wave, no fault divorce, beneficial, non-beneficial. What's your thoughts?
Shit.
Well, no fault divorce meaning what?
What does that mean? Yeah.
Let me go find the actual full real definition.
Because like that make it sound like basically like who initiates a no fault divorce, the man or the woman?
I think that in general, the spouse who files for a no fault divorce does not need to show cause for the divorce, or that the divorce was anybody's fault.
I think women do file for divorce like 70% of the time or something like that.
Like the quote unquote irreconcilable differences that doesn't have to be like specifically he beat me or anything like that. We grew apart in love or something like that. apart. Yeah. What? Yeah. Do you think that no fault divorce, the ability to divorce when needed, was beneficial, non-beneficial? Was a good tenet to feminism? Was detrimental to the community? What's your thoughts? We can kind of keep it brief if y'all don't really have heavy opinions.
Detrimental.
Detrimental.
Think it was detrimental?
Detrimental.
You said when needed. I think that kind of throws the question off because I don't know if
You said when needed.
Because no fault kind of means it isn't needed, right? Because it's nobody's fault. It just felt like it kind of needed. Kind of sounds like you were getting beat up, and then you know what I'm saying, and not you know what I'm saying. When needed.
Well, yeah, I guess I have to look in. Like I'm not like a very fluent person inside like divorce history, but I believe that prior to that, like it literally had to like only be like
adultery, something
like,
crazy,
and like really, really intense things that had to have happened. And even like abuse really wasn't a reason for a divorce. In comparison, with no fault, like if a man is not living up to his end of the bargain, whether that be financially, whether that be inside like the emotional or physical side of things, whatever, like she has the ability to leave and kind of do her own thing.
Well, I just think in general, the ability to like marriage shouldn't be something that's like you go to God and in front of your whole family and make that promise. It shouldn't be something that's just that easy you allowed out of that easily. And I think the fact that people are allowed of it that easily, it makes them not take it serious. A lot of people just do it to do it. They do it to have the ceremony. They don't do it for the right reasons. And I think it's because you're so easily allowed out of it. And that's why I think it's, detrimental. You should be able to get a divorce, but like it shouldn't be something that's just as light as, oh, I don't feel like it, no more. It should be like if you make that commitment,
it still be as hard as it used to be prior to no fault divorce.
Well, I'm saying like if it's a forever commitment. So I mean, like if you go up in front of God and your family and say it's forever, it shouldn't just be something you can just get out of that simply. Like and that's what makes it not serious.
And added to what Johnny's saying, I feel like this is where in this dynamic, when this happens, the majority of the time, the woman is the one who files. So that is like, it's most times the woman is going to file for divorce. And
I ain't blaming nobody.
And not only is it easy for them to do it, there's less of a penalty for them when they go through the process most times. The way that divorce is set up, it's just disproportionately going to most likely impact the man, even if he makes less than it will the woman. Like the very rarely, like you starting to hear a couple instances where I think Mary J. Blige husband might have got some alimony.
Halle
Berry, but like this is like few and far between most times. Most men, when going through a divorce, if all things are equal or if there's not a significant difference in income, that man is going to get drugged in a way through the court system that the woman typically isn't going to feel the same brunt at the end of the day. So I think that's another reason why you see this pop up, is because it's advantageous to some degree for women in certain marriages to go ahead and do that because they won't suffer the same consequences as their counterpart.
G ain't no real feminist.
That's just the reality. That's the reality of life. That's the reality of life. I mean, look, I've been married for 10 years. You see what I'm saying? But I would tell any man, don't get married if you're afraid of divorce. It's that simple. Because like if you're so afraid of divorce, you shouldn't get married. It's like you can't live if you're afraid to die, so to speak.
But that wouldn't that be an argument for no fault divorce? Or are you just saying like if she's going to initiate the divorce?
What I'm saying is that as a man, you should understand the realities of how divorce works in this country.
Mm-hmm.
More than I think, I don't know the exact, I know it's over 50. I want to say it's in the 70s. 70% of the time, the women file for a divorce.
I was about that, yeah.
And so if Trey want to go higher, you go higher. I'm trying to be conservative. So if, let's say 7 out of 10 divorces is going to be filed by her, not you. That's just the stats. And when you look at the outcome after the proceedings, the lawyer fees involved, the split of the assets, what you as a man will
70%.
What you will have as a man before the divorce versus after, versus what she's gonna have before the divorce and after. She's probably gonna come out in a more favorable light than you. And when it's all said and done and the dust settles, it's just like that for the court system for men in divorce and child support. I know that, like, I don't know why I can't acknowledge that, but still say women don't need equal rights. Like, both of these things can be true.
Can I add to what you were saying real quick? On top of the percentage there, the percentage of women that file for divorce goes up with level of education. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, hold on, my bad. Say that again.
Like, the more educated a woman is, the more likely she is to file for divorce.
Yeah,
what
but that's what. But hold on, but that's one of those. I've looked this one up. That's one of those misleading stats right there, where this is what the full stat is. It's women with an education with degrees get divorced less than the average woman. So they get divorced a lot less. But when the divorce does happen, more of them file the divorce than like the average woman. But in general, they get divorced less.
Wait, say that again.
All right, so this will put it into numbers. So, like, let's say that the average woman, a woman that doesn't have a college degree, like, out of 1,000, 100 of them get divorced, right? But 70 of those are women, and then 30 of them is men. So that's 70%. So with women with a college degree, let's say 10 out of 1,000 get divorced, but 9 of them are initiated by the woman. So it's a lower total number, but a higher percentage. That's what that number is that you're quoting.
I get what you're saying. So you're saying they're less likely to get a divorce, but of the ones who do get a divorce at that price level, they're going to be.
It's going to be the woman.
The female, the woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So women who are
you muted.
So educated women are less likely to get divorced. However, most likely to initiate a divorce.
Yes. Yeah, it's like one of them. Like, yeah,
I get.
You can kind of use that to kind of like paint whatever picture you want to. But all right, so it sounds like it's a no on the no fault divorce across the board for everybody. And which is interesting. So it sounds like 2 out of 3. Or what is that? 3 out of 4 of the second wave, kind of like pillars. The panel kind of is for, but no fault. It seems like everybody's not for it. Of course, I think Trey didn't fuck with any of them, to be honest. Just to be fair to Trey. All right, moving on to third wave feminism. I guess we can start with, we already touched on intersectionality a little bit. So let's go. My bad. We actually had a couple memes sent in. So before we move off a second wave of feminism, as I'm thinking about it, I think that we did have 1 or 2 of them that got sent in that applies for this. I'll let it get y'all to react really quickly before we move on.
Up and she says, Patrick, this is very hard for me to say this. And let me tell you why it's very hard. I said, what's that? She says, ever since in high school, I wanted to prove to men that I can beat them. So when I graduated high school and college, I opened up my salon. We do very well. I've made millions of dollars. My people and my work that work at the salon, they do very well for themselves. I drive a nice car. I have a nice house. I have money. I have millions. I don't worry about any of that stuff. You know what decision I made last night? I said, what's that? She says, I want a husband. I no longer want to compete with men. I need them. And I'm like, what? She's saying this in front of 2,000 people with her sister sitting right next to her. Wow. And now she's getting emotional. How many 65-year-old women do we have to hear saying that I marched with the feminist movement and I bought into the fact that men are the enemy? I've never been married. I'm alone and I'm miserable. And I wish I would have never bought into that philosophy. She gets up and she says, Patrick, this is very hard for me to.
Again, well, I'll throw the A Black first. Thoughts?
Yes, I saw this clip. Just based off the topic, I thought it was kind of telling because I think it's easy for a lot of these rhetorics to kind of float around until you are, like you say, you old and alone. I was watching a documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's a documentary about different women. And one of the every episode is a different woman. So this one is on Coco Chanel. You know, Chanel, the clothing line, huge around the world. So she's super successful, millionaire, all of this stuff. And she said the same thing at the end when she was old and living alone. She's like, she just wanted a man. Like she has all the success, all of these things, but at the end, none of that really matters. So it's like striving sometimes. I think when you're young, there is a competitive thing that comes about in a lot of women to have things, to have equality, and they should have that choice. But just that video, that documentary, talking to older women in my family, they all kind of start saying the same thing, like nothing else matters but having that person, having a partner, and having a man. That becomes like the most valuable thing to them when they're older. And so like the dudes, like how many more women, what age do you have to be to realize that it is a priority? I think it was Vivica Fox recently, Taraji P. Henson, other examples of successful women, well-income women, and they're getting to these ages of like, I'm still unhappy. I don't have a man. So I just thought that was interesting of like this whole being equal to men, getting all the things that men have, but it's still not really being fulfilling at the end.
Hey,
Right.
can I?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, hey, Quint, you probably remember this, but this conversation, it reminds me. You remember it was Labor Day. We went to the cookout edition, Labor Day, and we had this very same conversation. And Rail kind of stood on a ledge about like wants and needs. And you remember the conversation was, do you want your partner or do you need your partner or whatever? And Rail was like, I want to need my partner. And everybody else, the whole cookout was like, I don't need a man. I just want my man and stuff, and I just want a man. But like you see 20, 30, 40 years from now, you see a lot of women and that I don't need a man, they regret that, stance. And I think it's the same for like men. I think, we were created to need each other. Like you don't need somebody to survive, but like if you want to really thrive and have a fulfilled life, you definitely need a partner. You definitely need that woman. You definitely need that man. We all need somebody out here. So yeah, I definitely believe that you gotta, you have to need your partner, because why else we doing it if you don't need somebody else?
And that word need has just gotten a bad rap. Like I don't think it's bad to like need each other, but I think society has made it seem like it's a bad thing to need a man or even a woman. You can do it all yourself and all of this stuff, but in the end, it's like, yeah, I need somebody. Like
we was created to need each other.
Yeah,
I think there's a difference.
Yeah,
I think there's a difference between needing and having a codependency. Like, I don't think partners should be codependent on each other. Like, that's not healthy.
Not for survival, but like not for survival. We can all survive
for anything. You shouldn't really be codependent on your partner.
You can't have a family without a woman. Like you can't have kids. You need a woman for that. There's certain you can't have a family without a woman. You can't have kids without a woman. That's something you need in order to do that.
Yeah.
What is codependence?
Like
this is innate dependence in the family dynamic, right?
Like a codependency, like sometimes parents will be codependent. Like sometimes codependency exists between parent and child, for example, where it's like you create this dynamic in which I need you for my emotional security, for example, like and vice versa. Like I can't function without your approval, so to speak, or I don't move unless we move. It's like
that's not healthy at all. Codependency not healthy.
That's what I'm saying. Like codependency and like that's what I mean. So I think there's a difference between saying we as human beings need our partners, but as human beings, I don't think you should be creating codependency in any of your dynamics. Personally.
Oh, like clinginess, like that's unhealthy. But you want to be wanted, but you don't want to, like, you want her to not feel like she is like nothing without this. Not nothing. I don't know what's the word it says here. It says characterized by excessive emotional and psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction.
It's like
that don't sound good.
It's like your partner basically like dictates when you feel happy, when you feel sad, when you get excited, when you get annoyed. Like people, you know, I don't know if you ever seen people be like, they like, people will say, "You made me mad," and really blame the other person for how they feel and not take like accountability for how they feel and how they react. You shouldn't have did that, and I wouldn't have reacted that way. Like these things create this codependency that's not healthy.
Got it. Nah, I got you.
Do you think I'm a phone? What's up?
Oh yeah, I was gonna try and move on to third wave before we start bringing up people in the backstage. So just get your quick opinions on this. Again, we've touched on intersectionality, but another like market part of the third wave of feminism has been sexual liberation and the general cultural revolution of, like, say, body positivity, a push away from Eurocentric beauty standards, quote unquote. What are y'all thoughts on that? Has that been beneficial, detrimental? G, I'll start with you.
I think it's largely detrimental. And I think in general, one of my criticisms with the quote unquote feminist movement and how it's been marketed is I'm just against any movement where the oppressed wants to take on behaviors of who they say is oppressing them, so to speak, right? So if you're going to, for generations, talk about how men are dogs and men are doing certain things and it's not healthy for the community, then I agree. Feminism shouldn't mean now you just go bust it open willingly for any and everybody like that. Like that's not healthy to be so critical of an action and then fight for the right to do the same action.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I was saying earlier, is people finding intellectual rhetoric to justify being a hoe or being what they wanted to be already. And it's like, yeah, you, like I say, you guys should have a choice. You should be, liberated to choose. But like I say, a lot of that is just rooted in like, I want to be irresponsible. I want to be reckless. And, I found this smart way of justifying why I should be able to do it. But really, it's just like I said, now it's not about equality. It's about I want to fuck as many people as I want. And all right, I found is that being equal to men doing the same thing, maybe. But then it goes back to saying, you're not a man. So the repercussions of you doing the same thing are going to be different. You're going to be viewed different, no matter if it's right or wrong. So, yeah, I feel like it just kind of started evolving because it really wasn't progressing nothing. You can look at the women's suffrage movement. The early feminists are the first wave, and you can look at things that were accomplished. This modern era, this new past 15 years, what have they accomplished? And what has really been liberated? And it seems like it's been like a devolvement in morals and who they are. We see the music getting worse, the visual getting worse, but nothing that you can look at and like, because of this liberation, women have achieved this or they've achieved that. There's literally not one thing that we can look at in the past 15 years that modern feminism has accomplished.
Who's created more six-figure earners for women in OnlyFans, A Black?
So supposedly they was.
Oh, he threw a wrench in that one.
Nah, you did, but like even with that, I like a lot of that shit be capped. Like I don't believe all of them girls be getting that money. I believe Yeah, your first month, your first week, you might make some bread, but niggas is not subscribing. They're gonna pay their $10, see what you got. They're gonna cancel their subscription. So I know, I know plenty of girls that have done it. And they're back out here still doing Uber and DoorDash and shit. You know, they failed.
Like a local rapper who mixtape failed.
It's like it's justification. You can make all this money. There are exceptions. There are people that do it if you got a following back, but the majority are not making that no bread on there for real. That shit is cap.
And I'll add this when it comes to like some of the third.
So does anybody think that there is value in women having the choice of being sexually liberated, especially being that over, I guess, centuries and I mean the majority of America, they have been suppressed?
I mean, for men, is you get it easier, but like I say, as far as how it's progressed them, I don't really see nothing that how it's helped them for real. It's just now men get sex easier than ever because the women are so-called liberated. But
that's the point. Yeah, that's kind of where I was gonna go. It's like I think women should have the right to do, like I say, whatever they want to do. They should have the right. And we talking about benefit and detriment. Like I think what they have done with the right, especially nowadays, it has been more detrimental to just overall to the community. It's a couple of them that get a bag, but like as a whole, it's not something that's good. And when I look at that third wave, I look at it as more not necessarily these are the rights that we deserve, but this is how we're going to take back the power. And it's like they're doing a lot of the same things that would in the past be called chauvinistic or stuff. You know, a lot of them end up treating men the same way that they've got, and it's become not something that's for progress, but something that's like retribution, and it's like payback for the past a lot of time. And some of the treatment I feel like, and so I definitely don't think it's beneficial.
Gotcha. I guess I got a question for so. It's I know G's answer because he's kind of answered this already, but so in general, are we all anti men in sexual liberation as well?
What does that mean? Like
I guess like when it comes down to like the idea of men in like open promiscuity, XYZ.
I don't think men should be out here making single homes and like leaving women pregnant and not providing.
I'm just talking about like just
stuff like that. No,
not having kids and babies, but the idea of, I guess, if I'm trying to give a fair representation of what the women sexual liberation push is for. It's for them just to have the open autonomy to be able to do what their body that they care for, whether that's
men always
and nude, whatever. Say it again.
Haven't men always had that right? That's what we like men.
I get that they have the right, but I guess what I'm saying is, are we against men in the same way that we're against women having that being able to express that thing?
Hey, hold on, Trey. Let me get there because I wasn't.
I get to the last two questions, but let me get in at some point.
I get it. Hey, but not Trey. You Let me get
now the last two because I've been holding this in for like.
All right, give me 30 seconds. I'll get this off quick. But like, I'm not against women having their right, just like I'm not against men. But I'm saying, has men's sexual liberation been beneficial? We could argue that it hasn't because we see a lot of that in the black community. What men just
so you saying that you are against it? Pretty much, that's the answer to the question. No, you're against it equally.
No, I'm saying with responsibility or with privilege comes responsibility. We all can have the right to fuck whoever we want to. We have to be responsible with said right. And you can't just go and fuck everybody. Not because you shouldn't have the right to, because if we all just go and fuck everybody, it's not good for the community. And it's about responsibility.
No, I get that. I guess again, my overall question is: do we look down on the delinquency of men the same way that we do the way we're saying with women in sexual liberation? Trey, I know you want to hop in and get that.
Yeah, nobody is in favor of men out here, like especially with the consequences of sex, which would be broken homes and having promiscuity. Because typically, a large percentage of women only messing with a few percentage of men. So when we talk about in the black community, and it's like a few percent, it's not like the majority of us. It seems like there's a trope that goes on that just back to the last thing too, because it kind of ties in together when we were talking about not needing a man and that type of thing. It seems like these toxic behaviors, they kind of use black people to usher it in. Like the Lizzos, like all these people have white employees. Like, I mean, excuse me, white employers. Like, what's her name? Like Ceci Red, Sugihana. They don't work for black people. And then when they want to push these degenerate behaviors and all these negative parts that come to the feminist movement, they always pick a black person to
Oh, you think that black
it.
women are the face of sexual liberation?
They're chosen and used as the face. I think it's pushed on to them.
Oh.
Like I don't think that black women are like innately like want to push that, but I think whenever you want to push something negative and you also want to make a people look like degenerates, then you go and pick the person like it's a white person and or a person that is in the system of white supremacy benefits of that. They go to the hood, they found a degenerate, and then they give her a bunch of money to give black women a bad name.
Gotcha. I guess
what
I'm
about
thinking
the
about
white
like
artists?
I'm about to say, what about like the Sex in the Cities, all the way from the Kim Kardashians, the
Miley
Paris Hilton,
Cyrus,
the whole like sex tape run that happened with white women in like their whole
Paris Hilton,
Paris Hilton,
Kim Kardashian, Lionel Richie's daughter. I guess she kind of she one of us, but she she was passing. I didn't know that was Lionel Richie's, but
so you're comparing her to the Ceci Reds and the Lizzos. There's still a class element to a Paris Hilton versus Sukihana.
I mean, Paris Hilton got a sex tape.
So there's Ceci Red takes pictures of her what's her name just on Instagram for free. At least Paris made some money off it.
Also, now they're not comparable just for that reason. I mean, it's comparable.
And also Paris Hilton cleaned it up and they pushed her out there to speak on legislation, so she has a balance.
It's same with Kim Kardashian. Questions on CNN. I ain't gonna lie to you.
But Gorilla, like she's always ignorant. Kim Kardashian, at least they try to clean her up, and then she starts brands like Skims, and she speaks on women. But when it comes to like, they use black women to push degeneracy, and then of course white women had the Girls Gone Wild, just like we had the Freaknik and everything like that. So I'm not saying like they're perfect at all, but I'm saying we don't see a bunch of black labels that pick a white woman that pay her to do something degenerate and don't show her in a good light at all. That's something that only happens to us. It's one directional, 100%.
Gotcha. Okay, but it sounds like everybody kind of answered the question that I had when it comes down to so it's even-handed. There's not like a double standard to the idea of the sexual liberation movement, and there is an acceptance of male promiscuity.
I do think there is a double standard though.
Definitely
in the culture. I think culturally there's a double standard, but
that's what I was. I guess maybe I didn't answer it the correct way.
What do you mean in the culture? It's all culture. All men have that same double standard. We need to quit putting stuff on the black community that happens everywhere.
I said culture. Like
I don't think that we're I think you keep putting it to black community. I think we're speaking fairly generally inside like all of this entire conversation.
You don't mean the culture like YG did.
Nah, just culture in general.
American culture. American, maybe that'd be like an easier version of saying
society.
I got you.
But nonetheless, we do have Kamu live from South Africa. You've been listening. You've kind of been keeping up with the conversation. Love to get your opinion on where we're at. I'll give you 2 minutes. What's your thoughts?
Yo, how's it, gents? The feminist movement in the black community is an intellectually dishonest movement. Our sisters know very too well that since our fall from greatness, being in the 17th century to today, black men have never been really in power to control stuff. So for a Caucasian woman, it makes sense to fight for equality with her man, because her man is in charge of the society. I could even extend it and say her man is in charge of the entire world. So for them, it's justifiable. But again, there's waves to it. The first wave, justifiable in my opinion. Second wave, to me, it was more about us than them. That's where black women started to flock into the movement. And I think looking back at that today, it's kind of um, broke the black unity and black you know solidarity between black men and women. And yeah, man. So it's an intellectually dishonest movement. It's unnecessary for our sisters to be part of it, and it's not taking us anywhere.
Got it. Okay. Well, again,
Can
go
I,
ahead.
oh, I also wonder, like, so, and you seeing the same thing in South Africa, where as far as like, is it kind of mirrored what we're seeing in the West with women? You're
Worse.
saying the same thing we're saying here. It's worse.
Yeah, in Africa, it's worse.
But that's because like a lot of African men are misogynists, right?
They are masculine, not misogynist.
Oh,
I
okay.
wouldn't say masculine. In South Africa, it's worse, bro, because
Hmm.
our sisters are too dishonest to even acknowledge that we didn't design. We were part of creating the system, but we didn't design it. We didn't architect it. We didn't engineer it. So when they come at us, it's always like black men are in charge. You guys are doing this to us. But when you look at the broader spectrum, you recognize that black men are not in charge at any system. We are just put there as puppets. We are just put there as facilitators. We have a term here that we coined for. In America, you would call them Uncle Toms, or let me see, well, coons. We have a term for them here. We call them clever blacks. So what happens is
What?
the clever
Black
kids from
Heathers.
clever blacks. So what happens is clever kids from school, they do well. You get spotted from high school. You get accepted into varsity. By the way, in South Africa, education is free throughout. So from primary school to university, it's free. So you get spotted into universities, you get bursaries, and then from there they prepare you for the corporate world. When you get to corporate world, they give you a very nice job, and your job is to protect the system. Those are clever blacks. So in recent years, there's been a rise of our sisters getting positions and stuff like that and protecting the system, while also coming against us and calling us out for the things that we didn't even create, and niggas
When
ain't
you say
shit.
protecting the system, what do you mean by that? Like, what will be
Typical,
like an actual real example?
typical
Let
coon
me
shit.
take it into education. So when you go to our universities, you find that girls there are more girls intake enrollment to start with than boys. Number one. Number two, the bureaucracy of the universities is led by women. So the
Mhm.
professors, junior associates, and stuff like that, it's women.
Yeah, I get it. But you
Um,
said like when they graduate, they're like men and women. I think would you say clever blacks or something like that? Like they're
yeah,
protecting the system.
I mean the
What would be an
structure's
example? Are you
already.
saying? Mhm.
Yeah, I'm getting there with my
Okay,
example.
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm saying varsity is like it's the work frame, the bureaucracy, the workforce is predominantly it's more women. The intake is of women than men, and then the top level, even for the past 10 years, or I'd say for the past 15 years, a minister of education nationally has been a woman. So you can understand from the government level to the corporate to university enrollment to high schools.
So it sounds like, even similar
And
to
they're not challenging anything. They're not changing the system. They're comfortable. They're talking down on us. Niggas ain't shit. Bro.
Same thing we see here.
They're basically molding them to perpetuate oppression, and they give certain people positions of power, and they mold them from a young age to perpetuate
Exactly
supremacy or oppression or whatever. But because they give them these titles and they power, they feel justified. I mean, it's similar here. I mean, we got
plantation middle management. We've been doing this since the 1860s.
Yeah, I got you. I guess, but inside like that scenario, you're saying that now the women are replacing the male coons.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, yeah.
And that's like,
it's not like men were changing anything.
Right, and I guess that's more so what I'm saying. It doesn't sound like with no matter who the sex was, it was still going to be cooning happening. So it didn't really matter if it was male or female, right?
Yeah.
They not putting certain people in position to control,
Yeah, bro. Men are more of a threat than women. Women are less threatening than men. So of course they would choose the women to do their dirty work. They've been doing it since the plantation all the way up in the present day. Where like Biden's like, I need a black woman, but they don't want a black man. Unless and a black woman typically has a white husband. And speaking of that, real quick, it's interesting that I think the influx of immigration from like black foreigners to our country, and also kind of this feminism movement taking a left. I wonder if like kind of the dynamic from the diaspora, where there's more like the men are kind of seen as being more like dominating, and women feel like they have more of a fight, where we didn't necessarily put them through the same thing in America. That's why you see your Simone Sanders and your Kamala Harris and not Taraji P. Henson, the other lady from the Time's Up movement that came after Bill Cosby. We see Tarana Burke. We see a lot of people come from the diaspora and then tell us Black American men ain't ish. And I think that's maybe more of a reflection of what they're dealing with at home, that they're kind of importing like kind of their gender war and then throwing fuel onto the fire that was already here. I don't know.
In my experience, especially with African women, they get a lot of that rhetoric and the attitude from here, from the women here. You'll see them looking up to our female rappers, our female leaders, and adopting a lot of their thought patterns from American women.
You don't think it has to do with child marriage and having to deal with stuff like that, and then the female genital mutilation and stuff that we don't do?
That's not a standard across like all the continent.
It is. I know it is. It's way more rampant than you think. I'm gonna look up how much.
But bro, I mean, when you look at the continent of Africa, like that's not like everybody getting their shit tied up. Like that's not like
is, bro.
How common is it in South Africa?
That's not South Africa. It's more like Ghana and Nigeria and more of that area. It's not like, it's a big landmass.
That's what I'm saying.
But there are certain pockets where it's very prominent. Is what I'm saying.
Sure, but those are still like pockets, not.
When you say very prominent, of the populace, how many women would you say are getting it percentage wise?
It's like customary. Just as much as male workmanship. I don't want to mess up your YouTube thing. Just like how it's prominent for men here,
it's
just
saying like on the 90
over there.
Like the 95 percentile women.
The majority.
What is it?
Yeah, the majority.
Inside, you said Nigeria and where else?
That's true, brother.
I'm looking it up.
Nigeria got like 300 million, bro.
It's the most popular. It's different with different countries. I mean, you could talk about Rwanda. Rwanda got the most Black women CEOs like per capita than almost any country over huge companies like big time.
But is there
98% in Somalia? It was in 2013. 98%.
Somalia.
That's not a small country.
There's a war going on there. So there's a war.
But what about you said Nigeria and
he said there's a war. That's a war-stricken country. They're going through war.
It's increased by 15% in the last 8 years. In 2016, it was on.
It's painting about Somalis with this woman who marched against female mutilation, but it was really big and specific there to that culture. But it's not like
it's even in the UK. They said they have 6,000 women who came there in the UK that have that. They brought that over. So it's not.
But
even
is
like
there any
on
the coast? What is that? That's the.
But I'm just saying, Trey, it's not as widespread as you're like.
Yeah, you saying like Nigeria and Ghana and places like that.
I think it's more widespread than the tropes that a lot of y'all kind of put on black men. I think it's like more of a common thing. Than like
I guess
whole,
I'm asking like where on like the east coast of Africa is it widespread at? Because you were saying like 95%, 98%.
That's Somalia.
Somalia is on the west coast of Africa.
Somalia, east coast, west coast.
It's on the east side.
Oh damn, I'm tripping.
Sierra Leone is coming up too,
but not as large as Somalia. Somalia was like a big deal at one point. Like,
what source?
Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon. This is from NHS.UK, the National Health Service of UK.
Oh my bad.
It's a travel advisory. It says Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Chante de la Villa or whatever, Egypt, and what's up? In Djibouti.
Those are British. Those are British agents. They come here to give us a bad name. The child marriage thing, it's only happening in war-stricken countries. In normal, regular countries, there's no such thing, bro. You get arrested.
You say normal, but a lot of Africa is war-stricken, to be fair.
I mean, not necessarily. In America, there's 500,000 women that deal with American women too. Like,
you said we do that in America?
Yeah,
we got female genital mutilation that FBA men are forcing their women to do that.
Well, I don't know about FBA.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, come on, like, what are you talking about?
Talking about America, we talking about countries. Like,
but who's doing it though? Like, Africans are doing it, and you're saying it happens here too, but it's still coming from Africa. So it's kind of like.
What was the countries on the east coast of Africa that you said was doing it?
I don't know exactly where Benin is.
I keep saying east coast. I meant west coast, the west coast of Africa. I know.
It looks like most of this is Central Africa. What I'm saying. No, I don't see Ghana on this list. But Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Djibouti, Egypt, and
I'm just trying to think of like the places that I might be from. It don't seem like
they do it in Turkey too. It says.
Yeah, in Chad, probably during the time of war, they had their president killed. In Cameroon, there was a Franco-British war. So the French speaking were fighting the English speaking, but now in Benin,
it says 200 million women. My bad. 200 million women and girls.
Do you know how many people live on the continent of Africa? It's over 1 billion people. It's over 1 billion people on that continent. Respectfully.
I'm just not. It's kind of hard to downplay 200 million girls though. But I get what you're saying. That's a lot.
In context with like a lot of these cultures, whether it's right or wrong, some say us getting circumcised is wrong, have been going on for years. So it's only it's getting
forced female genital mutilation. Forced, like not like they're choosing to and they're okay with it. They don't want to. There's 200 million women that didn't want it. They had to.
Born in America, are we forced as a baby, or did they give you a choice?
You're not. Your parents can choose not to do that if they want to.
But you don't get a choice. So
it's not the same, bro. We're not going to compare what we do in America to them forcing women to do that over there, bro. That's not fair. I think we want that over here, though. They don't want it. Is my point.
They want it because it's been culturally ingrained in us. Want it, like the outside of the majority of the world is uncircumcised with their men.
So we're really going to compare what we do in America to force me. All right.
No, I just don't think it's as widespread as you made it seem. Like, does it happen in Africa? Yes, it does. Is Africa the place where it happens the most? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean the majority of women in Africa are going through this.
Because 200 million is not the majority. I don't know the population of the African continent, but
it's not 200 million. It's not.
Right. I'm just looking up the No, but I didn't want to get into the other thing, but I'm saying like the feminist movement over there is the foundation and stuff like that. Like some women do get sold off like against their will. Some women we don't have to deal with that over here. They have to deal with
things that they are fighting for their women due to different circumstances. Like, so when I was in Kenya in January, I was in January, they had a big issue of like women being killed in Airbnbs by foreigners, by American men, by different things. They call it femicide. So you got women marching against that, and that's an issue that I know American women are not facing on great. But so their feminism is going to be rooted in different things, but it all comes back to equality at the end of the day. It's like I should be able to visit a guy at his house and not get killed, like, and they're not even just getting killed, they're getting their bodies chopped into pieces. Like, this shit was like common, like they're literally marching in the streets because every week they're finding women's body parts chopped up, a lot of times by American men, by UK men.
What? American men are not in Africa chopping women up, bro. You talking about not black men? American black men are going to Africa and chopping women up, bro. Stop the cap.
Right. They call it black men at the airport with a severed head in his back.
Oh man!
You said black men are going to Africa and chopping up the African women. Is that what you're over here saying on this podcast?
I'm saying that all types of men have been doing it. They're in places where they can get away with it.
Okay.
Pops off. They're doing these things in areas where they can get away with it. So the women are facing different issues that they have to. Our women want different type of equality. They want to get jobs. These women don't want to get killed and chopped up. They don't want to get mutilated. They don't want to get like.
And look at what just even beyond that, like what was going on in Nairobi just a couple of weeks ago, like what caused that type of riot was a tax increase, my nigga. Like that wasn't even like a crazy rule, if you will. That's just typical American policy for us to get our taxes increased every so often. It ain't no riot, ain't no protest. So it's like the type of battles they fighting over there is just not the same.
But I think it was like an excessive tax increase.
Yeah, and it was led by women because they're getting taxed on things like
we get taxed excessively too, but we don't fight.
But they're getting taxed on things like their pass, their menstrual pass, and things that they already can't afford are getting like quadrupled and times 10, like their basic necessity things. Like, so the women led that march and the men came into it too, because they're like, oh, they're starting to tax condoms. They're taxing like basic things that you need to survive or you need to prevent birth and stuff like that. So everybody has different battles at the end of the day, but like I say, the whole thing comes back like we should have equality, we should have a say in certain things, So different feminism is going to come out differently when you start going to different countries because their women are facing different things,
It seems like sometimes you just like go out of your way to downplay what they're dealing with over there and make it seem like in America we're like just as bad. But I think you started out the conversation saying that we have a lot of luxuries over here that they don't have. So on my only point is that their feminist movement may be more justified if they're having to deal with stuff like that. So when they come over here with that mentality, it adds fuel to a fire that we didn't really have because we don't have a history of doing FGB or having forced marriage or governments who are openly corrupt that we enjoy way more rights over here, especially as women.
I don't think I'm trying to put it into context, and different countries face different things. So you got somebody in the comments, they're railing off stats about Africa, but the same thing. I'm giving context. You can rail out shit about heart disease and obesity and different things in America that America leads in due to how they live their life here. So their shit is based off like cultural traditionals and things that have been going on for years and that are wrong and the new generations want to change. So they lead in different categories and different rates. But then in America, we lead in heart disease, we lead in obesity, we lead in car crashes, we lead in a lot of other things too that kill and that are fucked up as well. But it's all based on the atmosphere of that society. So I'm not downplaying anything or saying nothing is less than or better. I'm saying that like we gotta put it in the context what they experience is different. That's all I'm saying.
And I guess like as we're getting close to like that 20-minute countdown mark, I guess I'd like to prompt y'all with another question. In 2024, what are barriers that you would say women do have to overcome today? Explicitly Black women. We'll start with Johnny.
I mean, we're gonna be all the way honest. I think they got to deal with like a left, well, just a society that's pushing an image and pushing things that might not be to their benefit. And I think they're getting sold. They might be getting sold stuff that's not, the best for them. And yeah, I think they just got to be. We just all have to be careful. Us as Black men have to do a little better job protecting Black women, being better leaders in order to protect them.
We don't protect
Yeah.
Black women now.
I didn't. I didn't say that, but you could always be better, right?
Everybody can always be better, man. I hate that trope
That's
talking
all I
about
said.
it's emasculating
everybody could
constantly to hear
always
that,
be
bro.
better, including Black. Everybody could always be better. That's all I said.
That protect Black women shit is just so emasculating, bro. Like hearing women talk about they're not protected. Oh, don't put yourself in danger. Like,
Bro,
let's talk about that.
If that's what they saying, bro, like that's what they saying. And
I got you, man.
and
Damn,
they have,
it's like
like I say, and that's why I said they have to be careful with the media too, to not get sold something that's not really true. They have to be careful, just like Black men had to be careful with the left wing media. And now we seeing it's not necessarily the best for us. They have to have that same awakening. But until then, who else gonna protect them?
Hey, really quickly, responding to the chat.
Exactly.
So Tar G, I like to let you know that A Black TV's doppelganger is Mayor of Charlotte. Just in case you want to call in.
I told her come on. She's talking so much. Like, come on up in here, man. Come on.
She didn't know she'd have to talk to the mayor though.
Kamu. Then we go G, then Trey and A Black.
Damn.
What was the question again? Is it just
what barriers are women in 2024 facing? Are there barriers that they're actually facing? Maybe you believe that there is no barriers that they're facing.
I'd say in the overall Black struggle, economically they are kind of ahead of us, but socially we're struggling from the same thing. So she might get a high paying job, but she still has to deal with that racism. She might get that business contract, but she still has to compete with imperial and international corporations with her small business. So economically, there's no much barrier, but psychosocially and other aspects of Black reality in general, they are more the same like Black men.
Yeah.
G. So I think there are two key areas where I feel like Black women specifically are not getting fair treatment. And this is where I disagree with Kamu. So when you look at data, they say Black men on average earn 87 cents for every dollar a white man earns. And when you look at that for Black women, it is 63 cents for every dollar earned. That gap will actually range from as low as 43 cents in a state like Louisiana to as high as 71 cents in a state like Hawaii for Black women. So when you look at the fact that it's in the data here, Black women are earning, a significantly less amount. And it even goes to say, like, when black women have the same education levels as white men, they're making 65 cents for every dollar. So I think from an economic standpoint, opportunity standpoint, there's a lot of room to be made there to get that equal pay for black women who are in the same roles, doing the same type of work. The other area, I think, where black women aren't seeing the best, treatment in terms of equality would be healthcare. I don't think just when you look at the history of our medical system and how they use our people to experiment on, to really understand medicine and anatomy and things of that nature, I don't think that's ever really stopped, in my opinion. I think it still goes on today in discrete ways. And I feel like black women, like Trey mentioned earlier, lower birth, highest rates of death at birth. And then was it kids? I forget the two stats precisely how they're worded, but black women's health stats compared to others it's like, why are these things so unequal? And just being married to a black woman, hearing how she feels when she goes to visit a doctor, and what that experience is like, it's something that I really never really thought about until, I would say more recently. So I would say for sure, when you look at the inequality in the areas where black women can make significant leaps, I think it's tough to ignore the fact that they're getting paid 60 some odd cents on every dollar when black men are getting paid 80 something cents, white men to the dollar. So I think there's a lot of room to grow there. And with the healthcare in general, I think we could do a lot more to support them.
Trey.
So G, you just said black men also face wage disparities between black men and white men. There's a disparity there, right?
Correct.
And we also deal with medical, like going back to Tuskegee to even modern days, where we deal with the same thing with the medical.
Correct.
So if black people, men and women, face the same issue, then what's the point of black feminism?
So hold up, but I just gave you a clear example. Even though we both earn less than the white man, the black man earns 80 some odd cents to the dollar. The black woman earns 60 some odd cents. Like, that's not equal, bro.
But men typically make more money than women do. Like,
you think that's just innate? You think that's just a natural born right?
I don't think it's as simple as everyone does the same job, everyone has the same degree.
But that's what the data is talking about. The data is suggesting across same roles, different genders. It's not saying just what men make versus women make. It's more of a controlled study. It's not just saying looking at all women in a bucket, all men in a bucket. It's saying pound for pound. And it even gave an example of when there are higher levels of education, when black women are still making 65 cents on the dollar to every white man. All I'm saying is that both black men and black women have things that we need to overcome to get, that to the same level. But I don't know how you can stand on this hill that there isn't even a gap between black men and black women like that. Like, that's all I'm saying is we're not talking about the black men's gap. We're talking about the black women's gap. And there is even a difference between black men comparing in terms of earning and black women. And I don't think it's fair to just boil it down to men make more than women. And that's why.
But you think that a contract we shouldn't have the ability to negotiate those things? Because these salaries you're talking about, you make it seem like men typically go to the negotiating table with a different energy, which results in a different pay. So that is not something that white women have the same thing, just women across the board. But my point with the black thing is we have an all hands on deck situation as black people, and we start separating black people in different groups. I'm fighting for black women. I'm fighting for black gay. You already said that earlier with the.
I don't disagree, but that just wasn't the question. The question was, where do black women, or Q, if you can repeat the question, but it wasn't a question about all of us. It was specific to black women, and that's what I'm responding to.
What barriers do women,
specifically women,
explicitly black women, face?
So that's all I'm speaking to is just the women barrier to this. Like they are making 60 some odd percent. I shared that black men were making 80% just to show that it's not just them, but even us, them compared to us on this call, they're making significantly less for doing the same type of work.
So they should fight.
You can excuse it to they need to negotiate better and so forth and so forth. But I think even that ignores just the power dynamic in a room where like as men, the way that you fight a man is different than the way you fight a woman to some degree. Like, do you agree with what I'm saying here? Like if you're going back and forth with a man versus a woman, you telling me you don't change that? Okay.
No, because we're equal, like you said. So
no, I didn't say that. I said we should be.
Trey, I'll ask you this question. And I'd love to get your response. Sometimes it seems as though you tend to push the plight of black men, but minimize the plight of black women. What's your thoughts?
I push the plight of black people. I don't like breaking us up because we have an all hands on deck situation. We need our sisters to be all hands on deck with the black community. Like did y'all see that interview with Ice Cube? He had he was talking to one of the he was talking to, I think, Biden or Trump or whatever, and he went on Fox Soul, and there was a panel of black women. He said, "This is my plan for the black community," and they were pressing him to talk about, well, what's your plan for black women? He's like, aren't black women part of the black community? And I think black men, like everything that black women have, all the rights they have, it came either by black men or by black men and black women.
So
versus
Trey,
black women, it seems like they're fighting for black women and not the black community.
Okay,
and
so
I disagree with that.
So how do we address the fact? With that said, how do we address the fact that between our people, there's a 20% gap, percentage point wise? If you look at marginal wise, you're talking about if you go from 60% to 80% of something, you're talking like a close to a 50% increase, that we're making almost 50% more than our female counterparts. Like, how do you I'm just looking at what the data say. If they're making 63 cents on the dollar that compared to a white man, according to the data, I guess we just don't agree with the data anymore. Like if y'all don't agree with that, that's one thing, but that's what the data says.
Yeah, and I imagine this is what you're saying, just to make sure it's clear inside like the statistics form of things. This is a controlled experiment where the only variable is the sex and race of a person, but all other things are equal. So this is the same job, the same educational experience, the same job experience in general. But the main variable, not specifically talking about if black women as a total make more than black men, and that's across all job things. This is for a controlled environment where the only variable is the idea of race and gender, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a crisis situation right now, and y'all are majoring in the minor. Because at this point, if white men out earning white women, right, and they're still in a dominant position. So what if black men? But I'm saying, as black men, if we bring it back, the money back to the black community, so what if we earn more and they earn less? As long as we do.
But if you play for the New York Knicks, you don't bring none of that money back to the black community.
If you play for the New York Knicks, but the vast majority of black men are with black women. So if black women out earn, if we need to focus on black empowerment, and if there's an income disparity, as long as black people are empowered, then it's okay.
So you're okay with women making you're okay with black women making less than black men, one for one.
We're not going to be able to. There are so many contributing factors that go into that may not be captured in this study, which I don't even know what study you're looking at exactly or what the source is. But we're not going to be able. We're going to teach them how to negotiate better. We're going to teach them don't go on maternity leave. We're going to teach them to have different working different hours. I don't know all these factors, so I think rather than focus on that, rather than focus on that, we need to focus on black empowerment.
I'm sure that we could continue this part of the conversation for a while. I love to get A Black's POV.
So we should pay people less for being mothers.
Let's get A Black really quickly. It's a time crunch now. A Black.
Back to your original question, so I don't want to.
It is what are barriers that exist for women today in 2024?
So, like I say, I really feel bad. I'm not a woman. I don't want to really speak for them. So I don't really know all what they would consider their barriers.
From a man's perspective.
From a man's perspective, from when G and Trey was talking, I was looking up, different studies. I think most of the studies of the pay gap are compared to white men, but black men's, if we talking black men and black women, the pay gap is not 50%. It's not like significantly above them. I think it's like the women is 67%, the men is like 83%. But then you have to look at the number of women that are getting jobs and getting positions outweighs men. So it's less men that's getting positions, they're making more money, but it's more women getting more jobs for that. I do agree in the healthcare aspect. I had a project with women's birth, and it's like a big deal with black women getting treated less than in different healthcare facilities, which are causing them to lose babies and childbirth and not really being treated as humans still today. So I think that is a big issue, that a big barrier that the women are still facing. Overall, in our country, black women, I feel, have the most opportunity ever that they've ever had. I think they might face a lot of barriers socially as far as how they want to be perceived and want to be accepted. But I don't think there's a lot of economic or educational barriers that they really facing anymore. They got opportunity. I mean, there's still sexism, there's still racism, but I think in the current state, black women are, we have more black mayors, more senators, more everything in every category of black women. I look at my personal life, black women make more money in my life. I don't know about y'all life though. It's my circle. Black women are making more money. They're in more positions. In my job, I got 3 bosses. They're all above me. They're all black women. So in my everyday life, I see black women winning. But that's just my circle, my sphere. But overall, like I just said, I feel like they have more opportunity to excel and get what they want than ever. So, but I can't really speak to their barriers. I don't want to speak for women, but
let me ask A Black one question, just for clarity, just one question for clarity.
AG, so we're getting close to that. So a part of your 45 seconds, you can choose to ask him this question, but I'm gonna push the timer on everybody. Kind of wrap up your point in 45 seconds so we can get up out of here. G, we'll start with you. Just in case you want to ask him.
So it's really like if something is at 60% and then the comparable is at 80%, or it was more than 80, it was close to 90%, that's a difference of 30 percentage points, roughly. But if you're at 60% and you increase 30 percentage points, that's a 50% increase. You get what I'm saying? Because that's how math works. Like if you're at 60% and you get another 30%, that means you had a 50% increase on what you did, because you got half of what you did.
He's going to stat class.
And I agree with that. That's why I think people are asking, like, where these studies are coming from.
Hey, Black, I'm gonna go ahead and toss it to you.
I've seen 5 different studies that are giving different numbers, and that's why it's like, okay, I didn't do these studies. I wasn't there. I'm really kind of just trusting the information. That's when I start looking at, all right, my personal life, what do I see around me? And what I see around me is black women winning, black women making more money than their counterparts in most cases. And that's what I'm saying. I get what you're saying, but I'm like, it's different studies like that. The numbers change. I see 63% to $1. I see 67% to $1. So it's like, who's making these studies? Who's going around saying? We just have to trust it at the end of the day. But I have to look at like what I know, and what I know is like they ain't really struggling that bad out here, from what I see.
Can you drop a link, G, in the chat?
On you.
I dropped one. I'm gonna drop another one.
Word, perfect. Real quick, to sum it up, real simple. I think Black feminism does nothing for Black empowerment. If anything, it takes us backwards. And I think everything I said over is supporting information for that. And I think any time spent on that, if you're focused on Black feminism, then you don't understand what's going on in the system of white supremacy, and you're confused. And we can't build with anything like that.
Camus.
I think black feminism is detrimental because it creates gender wars, and we need each other to fight the system. So it's not okay at all.
Got it. Johnny.
Yeah, again, like I said, once we get to that third wave, and we talking anything, any of the isms can become detrimental. Uh, Again, I think this was a good conversation. I think it was fair. I think we touched a lot of points. If y'all want a part two, I guess y'all let us know below. Appreciate y'all boys for having me. Check out the To Be Fair show Sunday for 4:30 p.m.
Yep. And like that, this is the end of the show. Again, G-ish podcast streaming on To Be Fair show as well. We'll be back here next Wednesday, 4:30, not 4:30, 7:30.
9:30.
9:30.
7:30. It's 7:30
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's somewhere. But nonetheless, we out. Peace.